and you see by the dawn's early light was so proudly we hailed at the twilight as gleaming, whose broad strides and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular amongst birds singing out, yeah, through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Welcome to Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Presented by the Barndominium Company and Resto Pros of the Midlands. Part of the Chief Sports Network. Go Gamecocks!
He'll be fire on the mountain.
Consecutive home runs for Carolina.
It is good. It's gone.
He's in. Touchdown. He's for the throw of the cup.
He's going to score. It's a walk-off.
Touchdown, South Carolina.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home inside the Gamecocks, the morning show built by the Barndo Co. and presented by our friends at Resto Pros. There when you need them, Resto Pros of the Midlands, RestoProsMidlandsSC.com. The Barndominium Company builds your dream home in the Carolinas. Head to thebarndoco.com to do that today with one of the nation's best builders, thebarndoco.com. This is ITG, the morning show, as you all well know. The show comes up at noon, and on Sunday nights you get this guy, Rob Williams. He is the host of, or one of the co-hosts of SEC Sunday Night, now through 2 episodes here on the Chief Sports Network, and glad to have him today. In hour 1, Alex Jones will join us for a little bit in hour 2. We'll talk about some Carolina football recruiting as the Gamecocks are gearing up for another big. Oh, there's Alex. I thought you were coming on in hour 2. We got you in hour 1.
I'm here.
All right. Wonderful.
We'll do a little SEC smorgasbord.
Yeah. Let me restart this. Hold on just a second. Coming up in 15 seconds is Alex Jones with thebigspur.com. Rob and I will look at, so today we're scheduled to get kick windows. We've got kick times for the first 3 weeks of the year, but we're scheduled to get kickoff windows for the rest of the season. Remember, the SEC started this last season. I think everybody mostly liked it. And so we're scheduled to get those today. So Rob and I will go through week by week and we will look at what is the biggest game as it stands right here, June the 11th. It's not the fall yet, so this is subject to change based on how teams play. But what are the biggest games, or what is the biggest game of the week to week throughout the year? So we'll have some fun with that. We got some baseball recruiting to get to and so on and so forth. But Alex is here because of football recruiting, Rob, so we'll make sure we get him in and get him out so he can go to work here. But the Gamecocks had a good weekend last weekend. I know they didn't wave the welcome home flag 5 or 6 times or anything like that, but the reality of it is there's a good chance that they end up being able to do that in due time.
Yeah, it was overall a really good weekend for South Carolina. Obviously, coming in with a few of these guys who had some momentum already with the Gamecocks. Aiden and Andrew Harris were ones that, South Carolina had built a lead for, those two, the twins going into this visit. And, I think, just solidified their standing, and they ended up committed on Saturday night. And, I thought, overall, like, these first 2 weekends, I think the staff has really kind of hit it out of the park with these official visits, and, kind of set it with the first, weekend of guys, but also it's going to be the same for the second weekend of guys. Some of the leads or some of the momentum that you built with these guys, you're going to have to be able to sustain it as these guys go on either now midweek visits with how many visits some of these guys are taking, and then head into next weekend and the weekend after that. But without a doubt, they made a lot of momentum with some of these guys. Everybody wants to hear about, Landon Duckworth. Obviously, things with him, being a top target went really well with him this weekend, and South Carolina's put themselves in a really good spot. And just, with him, he's got Ole Miss visit as well as going to Florida State this weekend. So, just with a lot of these guys, continue to build that momentum. And I thought, one of the more, kind of underlying stories that came out of the weekend was Zion Giles, a commitment out of Carver's Bay, the 4-star offensive tackle, said that he's going to go ahead and shut down his recruitment. And so I thought, that's huge because he's a guy that, you see from the industry rankings really highly ranked, and, a bunch of schools are still coming after him. But, that was really good news for South Carolina, just a really good weekend overall for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Duckworth, obviously, everybody, when you've got a high-end quarterback that you're going after and you get him, that's generally the crown jewel of every class. But one of the things that we also will see a little bit more of across college football, not just at South Carolina, is when you do get that crown jewel, if it is a top-tier quarterback like they feel like Landon Duckworth is a lot of the dominoes kind of start to fall around that, Alex, especially on the offensive side. What type of impact is he having on some of his fellow recruits that are considering South Carolina?
Yeah, kind of like you said, when you're able to get any quarterback, but really one that would end up being a Landon Duckworth's, caliber if he does indeed commit to South Carolina. That's a lot of times, wide receivers, running backs, offensive linemen really attract to that. And you have to imagine what you see on his film that, wide receivers would love to come play with him. And South Carolina's after a couple, they had last weekend, they had Travis Johnson in for that first weekend. They made momentum there. And then they also got Samorian Wingo, a 4-star wide receiver out of St. Augustine that's coming in next weekend. So when you're able to do that, it really helps you, build that momentum, because those guys typically are really good recruiters themselves. You saw that, with Dante Reno in that class a few years ago. He really did a good job of keeping that class together when the season really wasn't going all that well. He and the rest of the staff did a good job of keeping that class together. So it gives you a boost just because of how many guys are going to want to come play for a guy like Landon Duckworth if things continue to go well for Carolina. But it should be, it'll help. They have a lot of momentum on the recruiting chair right now, but if they're able to do that, that momentum is going to take a big kick up.
Yeah, they're not really at this point in time. There's not really an option 2 behind that we're aware of. I mean, I don't think Shane or Darren would come out and say, "No, we don't have anybody else on the board." I'm sure somebody's there. They would turn their attention to, but based on I know what you've heard, Alex, and what Hale has heard and what JC has heard, and you kind of factor in some of the outside reporting from some of the national folks and even guys covering other programs that Duckworth has been involved in. I think all of them are leaning either slightly or heavily that South Carolina is his choice of or where he decides to go play his college football.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think they've kind of, even when Landon Duckworth decommitted, they made him a priority and continue to make him a priority in this class. And I think that's kind of paid off in the long run with him. But, I think a lot of times when you see a quarterback decommit or really any player decommit, you wonder, is the team going to be able to keep that momentum with them? And, quarterback recruiting is kind of unique in a way just because of every team's really only taken one. But, Mike Shula's done an incredible job building that relationship with him. And I think that's something that's paying off for him. And you're right. They've kind of zeroed in on him. They had Brady Smeagol kind of on the board for a little while out of California. There was a little bit of momentum there, but he ended up committing to Michigan, which is, I think, a good fit system-wise for him. And, I think Duckworth kind of fits the system at South Carolina that they're trying to run really well with his legs and also with his arm. But without a doubt, he's their priority. And if things don't end up going well, maybe they go and have other guys on their board that they evaluate. But, without a doubt, he's their number one, arguably maybe a top of the board overall on the recruiting board.
Alex, is there something specific that you feel like from what you've heard that Duckworth is looking for? Because as we've seen in the past, even when we think guys are locked up, a trip to Oxford and talking to Lane can sometimes shake things up a little bit. I don't want to put that fear in the minds of anybody, but it's definitely something that's in the back of everybody's mind if he's going to go out there. So is there something specific for him, or is he just waiting on a certain date, or he wants to take his visits?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think, one, it's just the relationship he's built with Mike Shula is something that I think has given South Carolina a lot of momentum here recently. And, I think one school to really watch, too, it kind of sounds like it's Auburn with him. Like he was there 2 weekends ago. I think Auburn could end up being the team to watch. But kind of as you mentioned, Rob, you don't want to overlook, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss just because of how well they can recruit. But I think it could end up being a South Carolina-Auburn battle. And you kind of like South Carolina's chances there just because for a few factors. One, he's already taken the Auburn visit, before South Carolina, so he can't take another official visit. But two, Auburn got Deuce Knight this past cycle, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. So that's something that, can be used there in recruiting as well. But, the South Carolina, I think it's just, just the resiliency they kind of had in this recruitment and keep on pushing when things weren't looking great. Honestly, that recruitment has them, maybe arguably at the top right now.
Yeah, quarterback recruiting is just really so interesting. I mean, you mentioned Deuce Knight, and obviously, if they brought in two guys, it's going to be a challenge for both. One's going to try to beat out the other, and so on and so forth. But you have to have. I've talked to Shane about this before. You have to have a pipeline within your program. You got to have 4 or 5 guys. You got to have the future set up, and you have to expect that you're going to lose 1 or 2 every year. Like it just is what it is. And so quarterbacks, whenever they are trying to figure out where they're going to go, you do wonder how much it factors into some guys versus others. I mean, situations at different schools are obviously different, but if you're searching for playing time or is this set up best for me, you don't know who's going to end up departing. You just don't ever know anymore. It's almost like, man, choose the program that you think is going to develop you the best, and let's see where the rest of it falls. And it sounds to me like Landon Duckworth, like that's kind of what he's zeroed in on here at South Carolina. I mean, if Lenoris leaves this year and goes to the draft, that's a real scenario. If he leaves, there's still a guy named Aaron Olin. There's still a guy named Cutter Woods, and they're probably still going to go to the portal and find another one. And so, he's still going to have to beat out somebody here. And I'm not picking on Landon Duckworth or anything, or picking apart your words. But this is the situation for every single quarterback.
Yeah.
Every quarterback in the country, if you're worth a crap, you're going to go through this. And if you're going to a team that's worth a crap, you're definitely going to go through it. But it looks like South Carolina has found the right way to go about this with him.
Yeah, and I think it is that development piece that you mentioned. Like I think he's looking at what South Carolina's been able to do with the Norris Sellers, a guy that kind of from a physical standpoint is a little bit similar just from what those two bring to the table with their legs and with their arms. So I think that's something that's really attractive to Duckworth, and also just the Mike Shula connection of what he was able to do in the NFL with the Panthers and Cam Newton. Like you have to imagine that's something that's attractive too, especially for I just think with the way his playing style, with Duckworth's playing style, is it just fits South Carolina really well with what they're trying to do. And having a guy like Norris Sellers who has just taken off with a great freshman season, doing nothing but positive things on the recruiting show for quarterbacks and really just any position overall.
The recruiting right now, I got to be careful how I say this, but it feels very Alabama-ish. Okay, and here's my point. I'm not necessarily comparing the talent, although maybe we are at the end of the day. Who knows? But Alabama, and it's happening right now. We'll see where it goes. But it happened a lot under Nick Saban. You would get into the summer, and you kind of, if you're a list guy, or a rankings guy and you go to the numbers, you go, man, what's going on with Alabama? You know, they're 35th in recruiting, or they're 41st in recruiting, or whatever it is. And that really was a false number, because they had this whole pipeline of dudes set up, and then you look up 3 weeks later and they're number 7 or they're number 4 or whatever the case is. Now, I'm not saying that South Carolina's got, you know, a pipeline of 5-star guys like Saban would run through. I'm not getting there or going there. But what I am going after is the fact that they do have a pipeline of guys that they do feel very, very good about. And we did just see some of those dominoes fall this past weekend. But in the coming weeks and the coming months, you know, whatever that ranking is and all that stuff now, that's going to be totally null and void. It's not like they're spinning their wheels trying to find players. They got plenty of them. It's just going through the process at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're in the 24/7 sports ranking, I think 33rd right now, somewhere in that range. But when you look at it, you know, you look at the teams above them, all these other teams, most of these teams above them have, you know, maybe 10 or more commitments, and South Carolina's at what they're at right now. And I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of guys that are at the top of their board who are taking all these visits and are going to be announced at either, you know, late after these official visits or early before their senior season. And I mean, you look at what they're bringing in next weekend, the guys that they feel, you know, pretty good about. Darius Gray, a 5-star offensive lineman. Samari Matthews, who's one of the top cornerbacks in the country, probably going to keep rising because that guy's really good. I mean, they got Carson Baker's coming in, and we'll see what happens with him. You know, Florida's got a lot of momentum with him right now, and I think he's going to be taking an unofficial this weekend there. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, there's just a lot of guys that they're right now going after that are late announcing, and that's going to when the momentum can really start to build. Because, you know, Noah Clark was in this past week, and you know, feel pretty good about where South Carolina's at with him. You're going to battle NC State, but he's announcing July 2nd, I believe. Joel Combe, who was in this weekend, South Carolina made a pretty big move with. He's announcing July 9th. So that momentum, like, they have a lot of momentum right now, but, you know, if things can, you know, they sustain that momentum with some of these guys that they have, it could be a pretty big, you know, maybe early July or the whole month of July, but then Samari Matthews is announcing in August. So they're, you know, don't look too much into the recruiting ranking right now, because, I mean, it's a solid, really solid class right now. It's only got a chance to continue to get better and better.
Yeah, so no officials this weekend. They do have camp this week. And you know, they're finding guys in camp. We got a couple questions from the chat box we're going to get to in just a second, and then we're going to get you out of here. But next weekend is another big official visit weekend. Friday, June 20th is when it starts, and I'm looking here 4, 5, 8. They got like 9. Is it 9 guys that you're 4, 8, 9? 9 guys right now. Yeah. You mentioned Matthews. You mentioned Gray. Currents will be here. He's already committed. Samarian Wingo, I think you mentioned him, the wideout from St. Augustine, Florida. That alone, that group right there. Carson Baker, Tamarian Watkins, Desmond Green, the big boy from beautiful St. Stephen, South Carolina. Trey Aiken, the tackle out of Clinton. And they've got Tilden Riley in there. He's a tight end from Orangeburg Prep. And we'll see if they add anybody to that list. But they're in a good spot with every one of them.
Yeah, really. I mean, you know, I mentioned Carson Baker. You know, I'm going to continue watching Florida with him. I think they've got a lot of momentum there. But forgot to mention Tamarian Watkins. He's another one that I don't think he hasn't announced a commitment date, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not long after all of his official visits are done. And South Carolina's in a pretty good spot there. And those two in-state offensive linemen, Desmond Green and Trey Aiken, I actually think Desmond Green's over at Williams-Brice right now because Timberland's here. And I'm not sure if he's working out or not, but it's something I'll have to find out. But, you know, he's one that, you know, Georgia, you know, one to watch with him just at Oklahoma. I think he's going to Florida this weekend. So both of those in-state offensive linemen they're going to battle for, because Trey Aiken, I think, has a 24/7 sports crystal ball to NC State right now. So we'll see with there. And I think they, you know, feel really good with Tilden Riley, who's a really good player out of Orangeburg Prep. So it's going to be a huge weekend, a huge opportunity, because they're going to have to, you know, Darius Gray's taking a ton of official visits and going to have 3 more before he gets to South Carolina, I think. So, you know, they've got momentum there. Is going to continue to build on that. But it's you know, a really good official visit week with the amount of players that they're bringing in, plus the commitments and Jazavian Currents, and, you know, the only one commitment right now, Jazavian Currents, who's coming in, and he's, you know, continue to be solid with South Carolina. He's pretty close with Samari Matthews, so it should be a pretty fun weekend for South Carolina to see what they can do.
Guys, the way that they're recruiting this state, the Riley, the kid from O-Prep is exhibit A of how Shane Beamer and this staff operate. Do not leave a door in a high school in South Carolina unopened by our staff. Go in every one of them. You never know when a player's coming out. You never know. You never know when a kid's going to move to town. I mean, there's like like 100,000 people a year that move to South Carolina, unfortunately, for the sake of our roads, but that's for conversation for another day. And, these guys, if you're here, they know about you. I mean, it's just really, really incredible. All right. Oh, shoot. I saw somebody asked a question earlier in the Nana Sports chat, the award-winning Nana Sports chat box. Get their pimento cheese, nanasports.com. Justin Hall. Hey, Justin. Any thoughts on the Dorman quarterback that was turning heads at 7-on-7 a few days ago? Did you get a chance to see him?
I'm trying to think. The one quarterback I was watching was at Ridgeview. He's a 2027 guy. I kind of zeroed in on Ridgeview and some of those other teams that were there this past week. I didn't get to see much of Dorman. I saw obviously Polo Anderson, the Clemson commit, was there, but one of the quarterbacks that stood out this past camp that I saw was the Ridgeview quarterback, and so I'm not sure. I didn't see much of Dorman, but that was one quarterback. Just to throw it in there, the Ridgeview quarterback was one that stood out to me.
Okay. Ethan asked if we should worry about running back this year. I would say at this point in time, no. But if Faison is denied, yes. I would say that would be a fairly stern yes. And then finally, Kenny, he says, every time I hear Trey Aiken, I immediately think about Clay Aiken from American Idol. Can you compare the two for us, Alex?
I'm not even sure I could. Like, that'd be something if I could, though.
How old was Alex when Clay Aiken was on American Idol, JB?
Oh, Alex, what are you, 20? How old are you? 20 what?
26. I was born in 98.
Yeah, so yeah,
that had to be
probably
02. That had to be like 02.
So I was 4.
Was he on with Carrie Underwood?
No, he was season 2 with Ruben Studdard.
Oh, yeah. So you weren't watching American Idol when you were 4, Alex?
I don't think so. I don't think I was into American Idol yet.
Are you into it now?
No, I don't know why. No, but I don't know why I worded it that way. But
JB's really into it.
I like American
Really?
Idol. I hadn't watched it in years, but like I've got 6-year-olds, and you can only watch so many things with 6-year-olds that you know what I mean. Like, so I was like, well, we can watch a singing show, can't we? And
are you into The Voice?
They loved it. I don't. Not now that Blake Shelton's gone. No, I'll be honest with you. The thing that turned me back on to the American Idol was Carrie Underwood, and then I realized from there how much I enjoyed it. So thanks, Carrie. All right. Quickly, any prospects in camp this week that maybe the public doesn't know about that you're aware of? You're going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, today, one of the guys I'm really going to be keeping an eye on is Jordan Gorham, a 2028 wide receiver out of Timberland. He's, South Carolina. He was at a camp early last week in South Carolina, Alfred, and he's already back with his teammates today. So that's, for a 2028 in-state offer, that's, early for an in-state offer, but that shows just how much they like Jordan Gorman. He's a really good wide receiver. I think he's in that 6'2" range right now. Or he's 6'4". We haven't listed at 6'4", 181, and to be at 2028, that means he's only going to keep growing too. So really excited to see him. And another guy that I'm intrigued to see is Emerson Lewis, a 27 quarterback out of Calvary Day, with the same school that Michael Smith came from, signed with South Carolina 2 years ago. And he's a guy that's got some offers already. South Carolina offered, I think, at maybe a junior day earlier this year. But those are two guys I'm really going to keep an eye on. And then Hale's over at O-line, D-line camp going on at the stadium right now. So we'll kind of have the whole recap later on this afternoon, but a few guys I'm interested to watch today.
When they got the number 1 player in the country stopping by this weekend with his team, right?
Yep. Yeah, he'll be at, I think, Friday or Saturday, 1 to 2. And, we'll see kind of what goes on there. He's been saying that he's locked in with Maryland, and he's taking an Auburn official visit, but he's saying he's locked in, but we'll see. South Carolina was involved, but it's just one of those where had to see how much actually comes of it, but because he is just coming in with the team, but they'll have their shot to kind of see if they can make a move.
Shane Beamer trying to get under the skin, stay under the skin of Mike Loxley. Hey, I was talking to Ralph Friedgen last year, and Ralph knows Shane, he knows the Beamers well, knows Frank incredibly well. Obviously, he's a former head coach at Maryland, and he knows Loxley very well. He likes Mike. But he said Mike Loxley literally told him, he was like, God, I hate those guys in Columbia, South Carolina. And he's like, we can't find a way to beat them. We've got them a couple of times, but I mean, he literally was like dead serious about it. Like they just keep nipping us, So
that Big Ten SEC football challenge coming up. Maybe you can schedule it.
Yeah, we'll see. Alex, thanks for the time, man. I know it's warm, but it's fun. You get to watch kids work out, and we'll see what comes from it. We'll be monitoring your reporting on the Big Spurt. You do a wonderful job, and we're always very happy to read it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. See y'all next time.
The pride of Hampton County. Hey, by the way, I'll call my guy in St. Stephen. We'll get some notes on these St. Stephen guys. We can't let them get out of here. I'll call Philip. We'll get him on this.
Gotcha. Looking forward to hear what you get.
Okay. See ya. I don't know. We need to turn Philip into the bag man. Let's see if we can work on that. All right, Rob, it's 10:24. We need to step aside for a quick timeout. If you'd like to soup up your outdoor area this summer programming on our programs here are brought to you by our friends at Palm Casual, palmcasual.com. There are 4 locations in South Carolina and now 1 in Wilmington, North Carolina. If you know anybody up that way, as we often say, it's pretty to the point. You can buy crap from Amazon and then buy more crap from Amazon next year and waste your money if you'd like to do that. Or you can spend a little money and go get the stuff you're going to just be able to keep forever. And we finally were able to do that, and everybody's happy at our home. The Bradford Palm Casual back porch is hopping this time of year. PalmCasual.com, Gamecock owned and operated. We will get into the SEC football schedule and the most important games of each week when we return.
Oh, man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
Welcome to SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network. Debuting Sunday, June 1st at 8 p.m. on the Chief Sports app and the Chief Sports YouTube page. Hosted by Rob Williams and Craig McMichael, SEC Sunday Night will feature the conversations, have the information, and host the guests that make this storied conference great. Join us June 1st for SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome to Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions. Basement crawl space encapsulation designed for your specific needs. Your crawl space can be susceptible to all sorts of issues, including moisture buildup, mold growth, and structural damage if not cared for properly. Let our trained experts provide basement crawl space encapsulation solutions to protect your home, improve air quality, and enhance energy efficiency. Schedule your consultation today for a safer, healthier space at dryspacecs.com. Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions, proud supporters of your South Carolina Gamecocks.
Happy summer from the Barn Dominium Company, where they are building dream homes all across the Carolinas. Their turnkey process can be custom designed, and you build it your way. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com for floor plans, photo galleries, locations, and to learn more about us. Gamecock owned and operated.
Summer programming on the Chief Sports Network is presented by Electric Bikes Charleston. Enjoy your summer like never before. Visit electricbikescharleston.com for Gamecocks.
Summer, yeah, summer. Yeah, the road goes on forever. It twists and it turns. Heard it, dreams grew cold. Mine burned and burned. I heard she got some tattoos to cover her scars. No matter where I am, never get very far. Now I've been 8 miles round the
It is summer. There's no doubt. Somebody was asking me the other day, Rob. They said, "What's the?" Well, it probably was my wife, I would imagine, because I don't really talk to anybody anymore. She said, "What's the weather today?" I said, "Sweetheart, it's June. What do you think the weather is? 90 and a 50% chance of rain. It'll be like this through September, and then it'll be kind of fall." And
yeah, it's just hot
summer
for you down there all the time, right?
Well, it's just anywhere in there. Like I was texting.
I'm in the upstate. It's hot here too, so it's the same deal.
Yeah, it's just
less chance of rain here.
It just never like the floor is raised from a heat standpoint. Like I was texting with Garcia and Pat yesterday, and Steven was like, we were talking about some stuff today. He's like, "Yeah, I might have a chance to do it tomorrow. It's supposed to rain. Yada yada yada. Might not be training quarterbacks." And I was like, "What do you mean it's supposed to rain? You live outside of Tampa. It's supposed to rain every day."
Yep.
You know, so have a plan and then have a contingency plan. That's how you navigate the coastal Southeast during the summer months. It is Wednesday. Tomorrow on GamecockTraditions.com. That's the final day of the 25% site-wide sale. 25% off everything on GamecockTraditions.com. So you got today and you've got tomorrow. That means if you go to Gamecock Traditions on Friday, it is going to be full price, for anybody wondering. And obviously it is Father's Day weekend coming up. I don't know if they'll get it shipped to you in time if you order it today or not, but you can at least take a picture and let Dad know it's in the mail.
Write a nice little IOU and it's in the mail.
Yeah, it's in the mail. So head to GamecockTraditions.com. They dress most all of us. They also have these awesome Rybo hats here. And they actually have a pretty neat little something coming out with these things next week. And so we're certainly looking forward to that. And we'll tell you more about it, I think, on Monday. I think is when that is. All right. So we're scheduled to get kick windows today. We've got kick times for the first 3 weeks of the season, pretty much throughout college football, and certainly in the SEC. And then after that, remember the league went to kick windows. And so because of that, Rob and I are going to kind of walk through the full 14-week schedule and kind of circle our biggest game of each week. They could differ. It could be the same. Do you like the kick windows? I love them. I think I
absolutely love them. We've talked a lot on our show the past year about how well the league has done maximizing their airtime and kind of spacing things out really well. And you have some more opportunities, but I think from a planning standpoint is why I love the kick windows. Just if I'm looking at it as a fan, you can kind of have an idea a lot further in advance what the day is going to shape up to look like. And then from my perspective, kind of trying to look across the league and cover everything, it allows me to kind of set my schedule a little more in advance to see where are these big games I need to be tuned in for and catch the major moments. And, you know, when is Vanderbilt playing Georgia State? And I'll catch that one on the highlights.
Well, you shouldn't be getting married in the fall anyways, but if you are, this at least provides you the opportunity to, you know, help out whoever you've invited to attend your wedding. I mean, I've turned down weddings because of Carolina football game, multiple weddings over the years. There's a lot of people who maybe that's why they don't really talk to me anymore. I didn't show up.
I was in a few in the past few years in the fall, and that's just tough. And, you know, as a pastor, I'm asked occasionally to officiate them. I've done my fair share of those as well. So that's tough too, because typically somebody's very close to you and they want you to be a part of that special moment. They want you to be the one who is officiating the ceremony. And it's like, hey, yeah, but LSU's in Williams-Brice today. So
yeah, exactly. I remember when Smoke got married, they actually did get married during the fall, but they had to. Justin played in the big leagues. He didn't have any choice. February, he was going to spring training. He wouldn't be home till October. And so they had to get married during the fall. And it just so happened to be, it was the Arkansas game, I think, in 2010. We got beat fairly badly.
Is that game at home in the rain?
Gosh,
or is it out there? Maybe
No.
the next year was at home in the rain.
No, it was at home. It was at home. But yeah, so I didn't go, and they got their rear ends whipped. But we were all kind of caught. Even
Yeah.
groom. We were back in the little room watching the game, and we got yelled at. I said, well, you shouldn't have got married during the fall. When do you want us to get married? During the season? Justin's off playing. I said, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And
Carolina football
what are you gonna
season,
do?
smoke in the big leagues. Don't care about the big leagues. Gamecock football, Kristen. All right. So if you're planning a wedding or you're planning to die, at least you can plan it now, or at least later on this afternoon.
Absolutely.
When the kick windows come out. If you are going to die and you're a Gamecock fan, try to do it on the weekend of October the 4th or November the 8th. Those are the off weeks. I'm just kidding, everybody. Just calm down. All right. Week 1. So this is one of the better years in league history.
It's insane.
With non-conference games. Yeah, Rob. I mean, you got Bama at Florida State, which, by the way, we had talked about this maybe a month or two ago with Corso announcing this was his final show week 1. And they did officially make it official yesterday that it would be Texas and Ohio State in Columbus. We thought it would be this one or Alabama, Florida State. He has his first show ever was an Ohio State game, but obviously
right.
Florida State is
yep.
home to Coach Corso. So you got that one. The Tide go to Tallahassee. You got the big one in Fayetteville between Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas. I'm just kidding. No, you got that one. You got Auburn and Baylor in Waco.
That one's squirrely. Watch out.
You better be careful. Yeah, no doubt. LSU is in the upstate. You got, obviously the Gamecocks and Virginia Tech on that Sunday, Tennessee and Syracuse on that Saturday, both in Atlanta. I just mentioned the Buckeyes and the Longhorns in Columbus. Of those games, because the rest of them would not qualify for this, what is your biggest game?
Well, the obvious choices here are LSU at Clemson or Texas at Ohio State. And so I'm taking the position of a contrarian, and I'm going to go with Tennessee and Syracuse in Atlanta.
Whoa.
Because I think Tennessee has a chance to slide backwards this year with some of the offseason stuff. I have Syracuse picked to win that game. And I'm interested to see if they don't get off to a good start, what happens. I think with the other two, if Texas loses, if LSU loses, it doesn't really hurt them in the long term. But I feel like there's a fragile mental state in Knoxville, and I think that it's starting slow could be detrimental to their season as a whole.
So if you ask me to pick what is the most underrated game of that slate, I would take that one.
Yep.
And I would take it for I don't know what's going to come of Tennessee. We'll get more into them in a little while.
Sure.
I do agree that Syracuse is probably going to be a little undersold, and I think that they will be better. And I think that game, because Tennessee is Tennessee. And so anybody that pays attention to the game that's not a Syracuse fan or a Tennessee fan is going to pay attention to the game because of Tennessee, not because of Syracuse. But I think when they watch it, as it stands today, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised that it's probably going to be a pretty decent football game. And we'll be in Atlanta, so we'll get to see a bunch of shades of orange kind of moving around the ballpark.
Three shades, actually, over the course of the weekend. We'll be the only ones there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've got Texas and Ohio State. Okay. And here's the reason why. Different from last year, I feel like Texas has trouble on the slate this year. One of the things that I think we need to be a little bit more diligent in how we discuss schedules.
Absolutely.
Because last year it was kind of a widespread narrative which this part wasn't true. Oh, the SEC took care of Texas. That didn't happen. Nobody got in a little room somewhere and said, you know what, let's give them a cakewalk to the end of the season. That's not what happened. but it's up to other teams to be good. Like, your schedule is going to rotate every year. They've got a system. It's going to rotate. Okay. And you can't control how good the teams are on your schedule. I guarantee you last year when most people got South Carolina, they weren't expecting the South Carolina that they ended up getting. Okay. I promise you, Alabama wasn't thinking they were going to have to scrape by and sustain a last second heart attack to get out of Bryant-Denny Stadium without the Gamecocks upsetting them there for what would have been the second time ever. Okay, so it's up to other teams to be good. And last year, I think Texas got the luck of the draw. You could argue the home and away maybe was a little bit more in their favor, and that's fine. But this year it's not. They've obviously challenged themselves with this game, but is anybody looking at their trip to Gainesville in October and saying, well, that's just a surefire victory. They're going to walk right in and walk right out. Nobody's saying that. Okay. And they shouldn't be. Oklahoma and Texas, I mean, that's in Dallas. Oklahoma is expected to be better. You don't ever know with that game. You never know. Okay. And then you got another one, November the 15th in Athens.
Yep.
And so my point is, I don't know if I look at another game there and say, they got to go to Lexington, Kentucky. They go to Starkville, Mississippi. They got Vanderbilt at home, and they've got Arkansas at home. I don't think they're going to lose any of those games, and I don't think anybody in their right mind does.
It's still a good draw.
It's still a decent draw, but they do have opportunities to lose, and that's my point. So, if you lose that Ohio State game and then you slip up somewhere else, I think two losses probably still going to get Texas in the door, but 3 isn't. I don't think.
No doubt.
Maybe because so I think I think that's the big game for the Longhorn. I think it's a huge game for Ohio State too. Don't get misunderstand, but clearly those two programs were in the playoffs this past year. They're going to open the season. I can't circle any other game but that one.
New quarterbacks, both places. That makes it a little unpredictable. I think that's the thing for me there too.
That's a great point. Arch Manning. And Ohio State obviously has the same deal, but Arch Manning is the story in our league. All right. So
you heard anything about him? Arch Manning? You heard anything about him? I feel like nobody's talking.
No, I don't think they're going to talk. I think that's going to be pretty quiet. All right, week 2. Of the contenders in week 2, you got a really interesting one in Lexington, and Mike made mention of this yesterday. You got Ole Miss and Kentucky. That's the only SEC game that week. You do have Vanderbilt, Virginia Tech. That one's being played in Blacksburg. You got Missouri and Kansas, which is sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas doing all right now, and obviously Missouri. You don't want to lose one of those first 3 with South Carolina. You got Alabama down the road, et cetera, et cetera. So you got that one. Mississippi State hosts Arizona State in week 2. Mississippi State better be careful in week 1 with Southern Miss, but they got Arizona State coming to town in week 2, and then you've got this one, Oklahoma and Michigan, and that one is being played in Norman. So what say you, Mr. Williams?
This one's obvious, right? I mean, I think that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to Blacksburg and see what happens with Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech, considering the kind of round robin style of the first 3 weeks between those two teams in South Carolina. However, the Oklahoma and Michigan matchup is definitely the one that grabs my attention. On our show, we have actually already picked every single game, and so I can tell you where my thoughts are and where we stand. And we're going to continue to bring up the infamous spreadsheet throughout our Sunday nights in the summer, and it'll probably be featured in the season as well. But I think that Michigan gets this one. Craig and I, neither one, are really high on Oklahoma. I feel like most of the country is, and everybody's got a lot to say about Mateer. But for me, he's just going to have to show me he can do it against this level of competition. And if we know anything about Michigan, it's that they're going to bring some level of defense that is going to be a challenge. And I don't think that anything that he saw last year is going to match up to what he sees in the SEC, and it's not going to match up to what he sees against the Wolverines there. So I'm going Big Blue, and I think that's the game that grabs my attention the most. Venables on shaky territory in Norman.
Yeah, well, I circled it too. It's a prove-it game for 2 of the traditional powers in the sport. And Oklahoma, if they do win it, there's a chance that they could be 5-0 before they play Dallas in Texas. All right, because they got Illinois State, they got Michigan, they've got Temple. Auburn comes to town, and Jackson Arnold will be returning to a place he does quite well. And then they got an off week, and then they got Kent State. As it stands today, I actually like Oklahoma against Auburn, but again, all this can change. But if they win the Michigan game, all of a sudden they're a surprise team when you get to October the 11th, in my opinion. So I'm with you. I think that there's no doubt. I don't think there's any doubt that is the biggest game. I will say that the probably the biggest tone setter game as it stands today is what happens in Lexington. You know, if Kentucky is able to eke out a victory over Ole Miss, who knows? I mean, last year Carolina smoked them. They almost upset Georgia. They did go to Oxford and win the game against the Rebels, and then it all fell apart. So one win doesn't necessarily lead to an outstanding season. We've seen that here in 2019 in Athens, Georgia. But also on the flip side of that, Ole Miss, you know, if you sneak up and you get bit there, what does that mean for the rest of the year?
Right.
You know,
I'm not really giving Kentucky much of a chance, to be honest. If I'm looking at the bottom feeder of the SEC for me this year,
I don't like them.
That's where it is.
I don't like them.
I really like Austin Simmons, and I think he has something mentally that's going to bring a level of toughness to the Rebels.
Anytime Lane is high on a quarterback, he's generally spot on. All right,
he's 19 years old in a master's program. He's got to have something up there.
Yeah, they would never let me near that. All right, week 3, Alabama will welcome Wisconsin to town. You got Arkansas and Ole Miss playing in Oxford. Florida and LSU are in Baton Rouge. You've got Georgia and Tennessee in Knoxville that weekend. What am I missing here? You got A&M. They're in South Bend against Notre Dame, and Vanderbilt and the Gamecocks are in Columbia. This is getting a little trickier.
A little bit.
What do you think?
I think the Gators in Baton Rouge is the one that grabs me the most. You know, you can make an argument for Georgia, Tennessee, but I'm just, like I said, not really high on what Tennessee's going to bring. I think that it's going to slide early, and this would be with the Syracuse loss that I picked 2 losses in the first 3 weeks. So I'm looking at LSU and Florida. I'm really high on LSU and Nuss, and so I'm looking to see, can they continue to build something here early in the season. This is the point of the year where Florida, I think, is still strong because you haven't played anybody up until this point. You're opening up with the Sharks or whoever Long Island is, and then you get South Florida, and I feel like that's going to be another kind of warm-up game for the Gators. And so this is where they're really going to get to test it. We're not going to be at a point where mentally anybody is checked out. There's still going to be lots and lots of hype around Lagway. And so when you look at Lagway versus Nuss, I think that's how they're going to bill it. I think, you know, Brian Kelly and this LSU team have something this year, and they have, in my book, what it takes to break through. So if I'm riding LSU, spoiler to Atlanta, then I have to pick them here.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. Look, I think that this week, so there's a lot that could happen prior to and after. Number one, if LSU loses in the upstate against the Tigers in week 1, and then they get beat in this game against Florida,
yeah, that's trouble.
You know, you'll want to be anybody in the world but Brian Kelly at that point in time. Now, if they win the Clemson game and they come in at 2-0, they got La Tech in week 2, and they come in at 2-0. Florida's going to come in at 2-0. You mentioned the quarterback matchup. It's going to be billed as such. There's no doubt. And that kind of becomes, because both of these guys, they were ended up kind of being similar teams last year. And so you're going to look at both of them and go, all right, whoever wins this game has a leg up on getting to the college football playoffs.
Yep.
And there's a lot of season to play. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, Florida is going to be 2-0. Are they going to be 2-1? LSU is either going to be 2-0 or they're going to be 1-1. So are they going to be 1-2? It is a crucial point early in the year to set the tone for what could happen later on. Also, if you win the game, it gives you some wiggle room, because we just saw what happens in this league. You know, there's a good chance that once again there's going to be a handful of teams at 9-3. And there's a good chance that we're having a similar conversation to what we had last year. And so this was going to be one of those games, much like LSU and the Gamecocks last year. for South Carolina. I mean, what happened in that game kept them out of the playoffs. So
Absolutely.
we'll see. I'm with you. I agree. I think that's the biggest one. And then we go to week 4. You got Auburn and you got Oklahoma and Norman. Miami hosts the Florida Gators. Missouri and South Carolina in Columbia Zoo. And those are really the 3 that we're going to choose from. I know that sneaky game here, but it's in Oxford. Tulane's a good football program.
Mm-hmm.
And they do go to Ole Miss. So, like, I'm not just going to glance over that like the game's not even being played.
Well, Georgia State beat Vanderbilt last year, too, so there's a revenge game for the Commodores as well happening that week.
That's a good point. But I wouldn't put those above the others that I listed.
No.
So what do you think?
Just for the record, I think Florida loses 2 weeks in a row. Goes down to the Canes. But I'm picking South Carolina at Missouri this week because of the history between these two programs. I think that South Carolina is obviously poised to make a college football playoff run. That's what we're all looking at. That's what we're all talking about. Where are the games that you have to win? Where are the games that you have to win? And I think that this game at Missouri, Drink has kind of had the Gamecocks number over the years. And even last year where I feel like South Carolina was not significantly is probably too strong of a word, but they were better than Missouri. Okay. And they showed that early on in the game, but then by the end of it, it takes kind of a last second miracle with Rocket Sanders to pull off that win. And so it's just really touch and go between these two teams. And I think that if you look at college football playoff contenders over the course of this week, South Carolina would be the one who's in the most trouble. So I'm picking that one as the biggest game.
I am going with Florida and Miami. Do you know who Miami plays in week 1?
I do not.
The Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
On Monday, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
On Sunday after South Carolina and Virginia Tech at night on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
That game is in Miami. Who knows what happens? I don't know, but clearly I don't know what is the bigger off-season quarterback story. Is it Iamaleava? Is it Carson Beck? They're up there, both of them. Maybe
I think it's Carson Beck.
Yeah, I mean it's. Let me ask you this. Let me rephrase that question. You have a really good football team. You have a chance to be college football playoff contenders, but as you know, Miami is, for instance. Iamaleava and Beck are both in the portal, and you can get both. Who do you take?
Carson Beck, hands down.
Okay.
I'm not thinking twice.
Why?
I think that a lot of his struggles last year, there were some processing issues, but you also led the country in drops. And you're coming off of a year, and I'll pull from my co-host Craig McMichael here when we talk about this, but you're coming off of a year when you had Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers. And so to make the adjustment to go from those weapons to leading the country in drops is just a significant handicap that Carson Beck was dealing with last year. And then he starts to press. And then the heat starts to turn up. I think when you go to Miami, he's not going to do what Cam Ward did last year because he's not Cam Ward, but you're going to play significantly inferior defenses compared to what you saw week in and week out in the SEC. I'm sorry, that just is what it is. And so if you have athletes on the outside and you have somebody that's reliable, I think that Carson Beck has what it takes to do numbers at Miami. And I think it may make him look better than the player that he actually is. But I agree with Brad Crawford. He's been on here before, saying that he's going to have a big year. He's going to blow up. I think that Carson Beck does that. Nico just looks like he's swirling at times back there, like the ability to process, the ability to throw an accurate ball sometimes. It's kind of 50-50. It's a coin flip for me. If you look at Tennessee last year, they won games with Dylan Sampson. It wasn't because Iamaleava was slicing and dicing. So if I have one that I want to put it on their shoulders, it's Carson Beck.
Have you not talked to his father? It was the system, Rob.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't the player.
So it's going to solve everything in UCLA. Well,
I've got Florida and Miami, and I'll tell you why. Because let's say that Miami is undefeated coming into that game. They better have at least 2 wins by the time they get there. One is Bethune. The other is a prime time 4:30 matchup on the CW network against South Florida, in addition to hosting Notre Dame. in week 1. If they beat Notre Dame and they beat Florida, Miami becomes a national championship story.
No doubt.
I'm not predicting that they're going to win a national championship for anybody wondering. It's Miami. They would have wins over Florida and Notre Dame. They become a contender in the eyes of virtually everybody out there. Okay.
Yep.
Same thing with the Gators. If Florida beats LSU and then the next week they go to Miami and they win again, guess what? They're the toast of the town. At that point in time, if South Carolina's 4-0 with wins over Missouri and Columbia, Mizzou, or Virginia Tech and Atlanta, they're still second fiddle to the Florida Gators as far as what is the story in the SEC that was maybe a little bit unexpected.
Yep.
It would be the Gators. There's no question about that. And so that's why I think that is the biggest game of the week of the teams in the Southeastern Conference. We'll see. Florida, for what it's worth, Miami generally finds a way to fall in their face somewhere. But the Hurricanes, they got to – those two games are so important to them. They got to win one of them.
Yep.
They have to win one if they want to get into the playoffs. I know that they go to SMU. I'm not buying SMU as some, like, program that's just going to stick around like everybody thinks that they are. We'll see. Maybe they do. But I'm not buying it today. They go to Florida State. How good will the Noles be this year? They will be improved. Are they going to be 10-win team? They could be. You never know anymore. But we just don't know. Louisville won 9 games last year. They get Louisville at home. I get it. They've got Syracuse. Like, there seems to be some challenges. But the one thing that you can say about the ACC is you can't trust it. Every year, you can't trust the league, and they don't get Clemson.
Do they have Georgia Tech again? Sorry, I missed that. Did you say that?
No, they don't have Georgia Tech. So
that'd be my strongest contender outside of Clemson in the ACC.
That's fair, but you can't trust this league. I think you can trust the Tigers. I think Clemson's real. I do.
Yep, I do too.
But I don't. The rest of them are all they're paper tigers until they get there. And so Miami and Florida, both in their first 4 weeks of the season, have 2 giant opportunities to leap. I mean, leap way, way deep into this conversation about can they win the league and are they going to be where are they going to be seated and so on and so forth. All right, it's 10:57, so we'll step aside. Are you going to stick around?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
You're good. Okay. Phil, no, we're good, Phil. You can cut the music back on. It's all good. It's 10:57, so we're gonna step aside for a timeout. Hour 1 is in the books. Thanks to Alex Jones for joining us. It's fun to do in June. There's no doubt. We do have some Carolina baseball recruiting to tap into a little bit here as well. And then we got JC and Phil coming up in about an hour. Everybody hang tight. Built by the Barn Dough Co. Man, those homes are beautiful. Head to thebarndoughco.com or pull up the Chief Sports app, and you can find them there. You can find Rob and myself when we return.
Welcome to SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network. Debuting Sunday, June 1st at 8 p.m. on the Chief Sports app and the Chief Sports YouTube page. Hosted by Rob Williams and Craig McMichael, SEC Sunday Night will feature the conversations, have the information, and host the guests that make this storied conference great. Join us June 1st for SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network.
There's nothing like Saturday in South Carolina. However you enjoy Gamecock football, Gamecock Traditions has a long-standing legacy of being a part of your game day. From tailgates to touchdowns, Gamecock Traditions has what you need and want with our beloved Block C logo. Get into Gamecock Traditions in Lexington or the Village at Sand Hill, or visit GamecockTraditions.com and have it shipped to your doorstep. We look forward to taking care of your family. Go Gamecocks.
Nana's Porch presents a Southern staple delivered right to your doorstep. Nana's Porch locally crafted pimento cheese has been a hit for years at weddings, tailgates, and other events. Now you can order online and have it sent to your home. Visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com and click the pimento cheese tab to choose between their original pimento cheese and their jalapeno smoked pimento cheese set. nanasporch.com. Man, that's good.
This is my dirt.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the morning show. Presented by the Barn Dominium Company and Resto Pros of the Midlands. Hour 2 starts now.
Yeah, I'd hate to be the first to sell. This is my dirt, these are my fields, where I harvest what I plant. That little pond, I catch bluegill. I built that barn with my 2 hands, where I raise my babies, a piece of me. Now this ain't just a piece of land. The money be great, but I can't part ways with a life that works. You can't put a greenback dollar on what it's worth. This is my dirt.
All right, it is the final hour inside the Gamecocks, the morning show powered by our dear friends at Electric Bikes of Charleston. What am I missing here? Something doesn't sound right.
You sound great to me. You sound great to me.
No, there we go. I'm good.
In your ears.
ElectricBikesCharleston.com. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. Enjoy the outdoors like never before. The best warranties, service guarantees, and just smiles. Like you go in there and they make you feel like you're at home. ElectricBikesCharleston.com. All right. Rob Williams, host of SEC Sunday Night, coming up on, guess what, Sunday night at 8 o'clock here on the Chief Sports Network. You can watch it on the app or on our YouTube page. You can watch it on our socials, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great show, and we're thrilled to have him and Craig on board. All right, into week 5 we go.
This is the way up.
Coming up at, later on this afternoon, or about the middle of the afternoon, I think. I'd have to go back and look at the time. We're supposed to get kick windows today from the SEC. So what are the biggest games of each week? Week 5. To kind of set the scene here and lay it out for everybody.
You start at the top and you can stop there.
You can start there. Yeah, you can stop there. All right. That would be Georgia and Alabama.
Yep.
In Athens, between the hedges. Notre Dame. I'd tip to Notre Dame, man. Notre Dame is in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's a big game for the Razorbacks. Auburn and Texas A&M in College Station.
Sneaky.
Kentucky is in Columbia to take on the Gamecocks. LSU and Ole Miss is in Oxford. Could be a big game for them, for everybody.
Absolutely.
Should be a big game, which should be. Tennessee's in Starkville against Mississippi State. If you're down on Tennessee, or is that an upset alert type game here in mid-June, Rob? Go ahead, put it on the table.
Not quite.
Okay.
Not quite. I do think Mississippi State will be better than last year, but there's just so much unknown with so much movement in the portal. It's a completely revamped team. So
yeah, okay.
I'm not willing to go quite that far. Not in Knoxville.
Got a return game here. Last year, Missouri made the deadly trip to UMass, and now the Minutemen will march back into Columbia, Missouri. And believe that's it, right? Yeah, that's it. Hey, by the way, keep an eye on this one. Keep an eye on this. Okay, you mentioned Georgia State the week before in Nashville against Vanderbilt. Utah State is in Nashville that weekend too. So Utah State's got a good little program. All right, but you said stop there, so clearly you're taking Bama at Georgia.
I am. I'm taking Bama at Georgia because this is one of those things where we have questions about both teams, right? There's a lot of questions about Gunnar Stockton for whatever reason, and he's low on everybody's quarterback rankings and what's going on in Georgia. Kirby has made his statements about, can we get some guys with some passion and some energy? You can kind of tell that going through off-season workouts that some of the freshmen coming in are of a different mindset. One of the things that I heard him say on Josh Pate's show was just that he sees the crippling effect of the high expectations on top-level recruits, but also there's so much expectation for them to come in and perform, and there's it's coupled with a lack of drive and want to, and JC has said this for years, that when we start giving 18-year-olds lots of money, that there's going to become questions about how much they're going to push. So I think there's questions there, and then obvious questions for Kalen DeBoer and Tuscaloosa. And, I happen to agree with JC that Keelan Russell is starting by midway through the season. At this point, though, I think we still have Ty Simpson, and I'm picking the Dogs in Athens. But I think that's the biggest one. It has both of these teams. Spoiler again, I have them both finishing the season 9-3, and so interesting year for the perennial powers of the SEC.
Yeah, if you're Georgia and Alabama, Alabama, they've got a challenging slate with Wisconsin and Florida State early, but it's not overwhelming. Georgia will be 2-0 going in Knoxville. If they're upset there, then this one becomes quite crucial for the Dogs. I am a believer in Gunnar Stockton, and I'll tell you why.
Sure.
He's a Mike Bobo guy.
Yep.
They've been attached at the hip for 5 years. And I think that I think he's going to play well. I think that him and Mike Bobo see eye to eye, and I think that anytime you have that with an OC and a quarterback, and a talented one, he's a talented quarterback. I'm
I
not
agree.
so sure that he gets enough credit for as talented as he is. I think he's going to have a pretty nice year for the Dogs. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. Look, it's a great slate of games. Ole Miss and LSU, and
that's a big one. But I just don't think it touches this yet.
Nah, I think that's a big one. I'm with you there. All right, on to week 6.
This is bye week.
Yeah. Vanderbilt's got to go to Tuscaloosa, so we'll see how generally Alabama fans don't even realize that it's Vanderbilt when they're in town. They will this time.
Yep.
Florida and Texas are in Gainesville. Georgia and Kentucky are in Athens. A&M is in College Station at home, hosting Mississippi State, and that's really it. But I'll lead this one off here. I don't see how it can be anybody but Florida and Texas.
They can't.
I probably for fairly obvious reasons. But if you're Texas and you drop that game against Ohio State, you can't lose this game in Gainesville. Like, you have to win the game if you want to go to the college football playoff, in my opinion. And if you're Florida, you got Texas coming to town, and the scenario plays out that I just mentioned a moment ago. You went on the road to Baton Rouge and Miami, and you won both of those games, and then all of a sudden you went. All the stars have aligned essentially. I don't think they're going to beat LSU, Miami, and Texas for what it's worth.
Nope.
There's a loss or more in there somewhere. I don't think they'll lose all 3 games either, but I do think that if you want to stay in contention, you can't. You got to win 2 of those 3. And so I just think that's just huge for both programs.
I actually do have them picked to lose all 3. And so that tells you where I am on the Gators a little bit. But I think that is the biggest game. This game, however, for me, if you come off of losing LSU and losing at Miami and then you have a bye week, this is going to tell the tale for Florida, which is kind of how I have it lining up. Last year, they went to Austin. They're on a 3rd-string walk-on quarterback, and they got absolutely annihilated, right? There was some – yeah, it got ugly. This is not that game, okay? DJ Lagway is going to have some pride. He's going to try to put the team on his back here. I think this is really competitive. I think that, their X account, the Florida Football X account, put out this video several weeks ago of old videos of the Swamp. And I quoted it and said, "Is this the year that the Swamp comes back to life?" I feel like it's kind of been, the life has been sucked out of it because they haven't performed. This could be the game, if I'm wrong, and they get one of those games against LSU or Miami. And so you're coming in here maybe as a 1 loss playing Texas, and you can level the playing field with the Longhorns. I think that this is a big game where you see the Swamp come alive. I just feel like from a talent standpoint, Texas has too much, and they end up overwhelming Florida. And if you line up the 2 quarterbacks, once again, that's how we bill it: Lagway versus Manning, and off it goes.
Mm-hmm. That 4-game stretch for the Gators is brutal, dude.
It's tough.
That Baton Rouge, Miami off week, Texas and Gainesville, and then they go to College Station the week after. I don't care if they lose LSU and Miami. They lose to LSU and Miami. it's still going to be an atmosphere when the Longhorns come to
Yep.
town. I mean, it's going to be it's not like they'll be winless. I mean, they'll have 2 wins at least. But all right, moving on to week 7 here, and oh gosh, okay, I can't count. Moving on to week 7, you've got Missouri and Alabama in Columbia, Mizzou. Tennessee and Arkansas in Knoxville, Auburn and Georgia, the Deep South's oldest rivalry. That one is going to be played on the Plains. Florida and A&M that weekend in College Station, as I just pointed out. South Carolina, they are in Baton Rouge, and they've got LSU. Alabama, or I already pointed out Alabama and Missouri. My apologies there. You've got Texas and Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout in Dallas. I'm not politically correct on that, and quite frankly, I don't really care. And those are the big ones there. So where are you?
Man, this gets a little tough for me. I'm kind of torn, but if I look at my season scope as a whole, I have a lot riding on LSU. Okay, and we've already said that South Carolina is a college football playoff contender. So I think that this is a big game for, if I'm looking out the side view, Kalen DeBoer and Eli Drinkwitz. And that's where I'm a little torn, but I think I have to go with South Carolina at LSU. Just because I think that both of those teams are going to be in the top quarter of the league and vying for those spots in the college football playoff. And I'll make everybody happy on this one. I have LSU going 11-1, and this is the one game I picked them to lose.
Rob,
I'm not saying. Not a homer pick. I can share my South Carolina predictions with you as well. I just feel like the Gamecocks are not going to go in there and be afraid of that LSU team, given what happened last year. We know what Shane Beamer does with past experiences, and he's going to make that one stick. He's going to have those guys ready to go, simply because of how it went down last year.
Well, they'll be
pull out sunglasses for Mark Stoops. This is a whole nother level.
They'll be ready to go wherever they go. I'm not worried about South Carolina at all, like you, being prepared, especially when Lenore Sellers is your quarterback. I've got Texas and Oklahoma, and the reason for that is if Oklahoma beats Michigan, back to what we talked about earlier, I think there's a good chance that they're 5-0 going into this game. And if all of a sudden they win that game, you add another playoff contender to the mix in the Southeastern Conference. So I just think that's huge. I do think Texas at that point in time is going to be in a pretty good spot with either 4 or 5 wins. I think both of these teams are going to have 4 or 5 wins, and this game's going to go a long ways towards getting or keeping both in the mix, or maybe shifting one back outside of the door there. So I've got Texas and Oklahoma, and I think that the league will see it that way too. It's kind of a return to the rivalry that it should be, but in the Southeastern Conference. Last year, Oklahoma was not the Oklahoma we're used to seeing. I think that they'll be better, and so that's why I've got them there. Coming up in week 8, though, moving right along, I don't even know what day that is. What day is that? That's October the 18th. You've got Alabama and you got Tennessee, Arkansas and A&M in Fayetteville, Missouri and Auburn on the Plains, Ole Miss and Georgia in Athens. How about that? Florida and Mississippi State will play in Gainesville that day. Texas and Kentucky are in Lexington. Vanderbilt and LSU play in Nashville. You've got South Carolina and Oklahoma in Columbia. And I believe that is that's it. What you got?
All right. So like I said before, I have LSU at 11-1. The other 11-1 team that I have picked in the SEC this year is Ole Miss. And so this game in Athens, I think, is Lane's kind of breakout game for this season. And so I think it's a big, big moment for them. They choke away some games that they're not supposed to lose. But here's the opportunity right here. Austin Simmons got a little bit of a taste of this last year. And so I think that the Rebels going into Athens is massive, considering where both teams will be at that point. Again, you have two teams that have expectations of at least making a run at the college football playoff. If you're Georgia, it's kind of like the standard. So I'm picking that one because I think that we see something out of Lane that kind of elevates the Rebels in the conversation.
I've got Tennessee and Alabama. The Vols have won 2 of 3, but both of those wins have come in Knoxville. The last time that Tennessee won in Tuscaloosa was 2003. It's been a while. So the reason that I have this game circled as the biggest one is once we get there to October the 18th, Alabama will have had a tricky game in Tallahassee. They'll, I think, have had a tricky game in Missouri. They will have gone to Athens, Georgia. Okay. And then after this ball game, they've got South Carolina and Columbia. They've got LSU and Tuscaloosa. They got Oklahoma and Tuscaloosa, and they go to the Plains of Auburn. There's a very real chance that although we all think the Tide will be better this year, that they could be right back where they were.
Yep.
At 9-3. And if you
Exactly
lose
where
this
I've got
game,
them.
yeah, and if you lose this game, that could be 8-4, or that could be 9-3. Same thing with Tennessee. Like, do they want to maintain, or are they going to slip back? So and you get the fact that it's still the third Saturday in October.
Yep.
You know, I can't get off of that one. I think it's an elimination game for both teams starting in week 8. So I'll circle Tennessee and Alabama. And then that brings us to week 9, which is October the 25th. The Tide will come to Columbia, South Carolina. Arkansas and Auburn will tangle in Fayetteville. Tennessee is in Lexington to take on Kentucky. And who knows what the Wildcats look like them. A&M is in Baton Rouge, and they've got LSU, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss in Norman. This is a pretty good slate of games. Vanderbilt and Missouri in Nashville, Mississippi State and Texas in Starkville. I'll lead this one off, and I've got Alabama and South Carolina.
Yep.
And the reason for that is very similar to what I just said a moment ago about Alabama. Like, I do feel like they're going to be playing multiple elimination games this season. And for South Carolina, this seems to be the stretch here. If you come out of it at 3-1, you feel like there's a real chance at the end of the year you could get where you really want to be. They knocked on the door last year. It's at home. And it's back-to-back weeks of Oklahoma and Alabama coming to town. I think it has a chance to be as good a back-to-back games in Williams-Brice Stadium as we've seen in years, with tremendous fan bases and a lot of juice flowing there. Well, it's a great slate that week. Alabama came to town in 2019 and proved that it wasn't still 2010. But this could be a little bit closer to 2010 than 2019 was. So I just think that South Carolina at that point in time, if they beat Alabama, they're on their way to the college football playoffs. If Alabama loses, they're teeter-tottering.
I think this is a top 10 matchup at that point in the season. I have Alabama with the one loss to Georgia. I think South Carolina is absolutely on a roll at this point in the season. And so if anything, the game against LSU is kind of a back and forth. I think Missouri is a big spot for the Gamecocks, but there's a chance that they could roll through this leading up to that matchup in Columbia in week 9. So I agree with you. I think it has major college football playoff implications. I think that Williams-Brice will be at the top of its power in this situation. It's an opportunity to take down the Tide again. And like I said, I do think that these are 2 top 10 teams at that point in the season. So from a scheduling standpoint, from a matchup, from a network and airtime, we'll see again what the window is. But I think this is going to be a big primetime kind of game. You kind of hope that you get the night kick for this.
Yeah, well, we're going to get the window today. We'll find out.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a feeling that's going to be flexed. I think there's going to be a lot of flexes this year on the kick windows for anybody hoping to get just the standard window for every week after week 3. I think you're going to see quite a few flexes. Just briefly looking at South Carolina's schedule and everything that surrounds it. That stretch in particular, LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss.
That's it.
There's a lot of flex games in there. All right, on to week 10. I've got Florida and Georgia, week 10. Other games that weekend, Kentucky has got Auburn. Arkansas has got Mississippi State. Ole Miss in South Carolina, obviously, as we just pointed out. Vanderbilt's and Austin to take on Texas. Oklahoma, they'll be in Knoxville against Tennessee. And again, if this was just a South Carolina conversation, this one is just as big as the last one we just talked about. I mean, all those.
Yep.
But I've got Florida and Georgia. Dude, Florida's schedule is. I'm just on the circuit. They go to Baton Rouge. They go to Miami. They got Texas coming to town. They go to College Station. They've got Georgia and Jacksonville. They go to Oxford. Tennessee comes here. Florida, who knows what Florida State is at the end of the year. But by that point in time, Florida is either a contender or a pretender. And Georgia at that point in time, I think that you've got 4 games for Georgia. I mean, I like them. I'm not saying they're going to lose all 4, but I'm saying they can lose one of those 4. Tennessee and Knoxville, Alabama is in town. They got to go to Auburn. They got Ole Miss. I mean, any of those 4, they could lose one of those games. So I think Georgia, you're talking about one game, Rob, that is separating a lot of 9-3s from the surefire certified 10-2 playoff teams. Yep. And that's why I've got this one circled.
Yeah, I think that's a great argument, and that's a fair point. Again, South Carolina, big game this weekend. I will say, just to go at a different angle, you asked me about Tennessee earlier. I think this is the one they drop. I think that Oklahoma, although I don't believe in Oklahoma, I think that Oklahoma struggles to make a bowl game this year. I know I'm standing on my own kind of in that way, but I think that they get it done in this one. And so this to me feels like the nail in Tennessee, and that's why I see it as such an important game. From a network standpoint, it's not going to get the most eyes. I totally get that. But from how the league shakes out and who's going to be in this conversation long term, I think if the Sooners go in and take down Josh Heupel in Tennessee, that's kind of all she wrote in Knoxville.
Yeah. Marcus makes a point in the chat box here. He said, until Florida can beat Georgia or make it close, this game isn't important. And the Gators haven't won the game since 2020. The last 4 really haven't been that close, to be honest. I know last year's was closer. It had its moments. But, look, a lot of the conversations that people are having about Florida are the conversations that people have traditionally had about South Carolina, but they're in similar spots. They both have quarterbacks now. And so I think Florida is going to beat somebody or some buddies this year. Who?
No doubt.
I don't know, but they got a lot of opportunities to do it. And this is if you ask me today, who's the better quarterback, Lagway or Stockton? I'm probably going to take Lagway. If you say who's the who would you rather go out there with? Who do you like more? I'd say Lagway, but man, I'm telling you, man, if Stockton stays healthy, he knows Mike Bobo's system. We could have, who knows what we get when that game plays.
Yeah, and Marcus, I think that they've cleared the shoulder talk in Gainesville as well. I see you over there.
At least they have to this point. I'm gonna have to believe it when we see it. Now, if he's got a real issue. Like if we get in August and it's like, he didn't practice today.
They're in trouble.
Anything we just talked about today is totally out the window. All right, moving on to week 11. If I can find week 11 on my schedule,
a lot of buys.
Yeah, November the 8th. You got Alabama and LSU.
Yep.
In Tuscaloosa. Vandy and Auburn, Kentucky, in Florida and Lexington. Come on, Gators.
Don't do it.
You don't want to get to that point with one loss and then lose that one. That would be a very Florida thing to do these days. You got Georgia, Mississippi State, A&M, and Missouri, and I think those are all the big ones. I think it's pretty clear,
pretty obvious.
LSU at Alabama. I think
absolutely
that's potentially an elimination game from the playoffs for both.
Yep, no doubt. I think, like I said before, I think that Alabama loses to Georgia and loses to South Carolina and Columbia. And so then this is it for them. If they can't beat LSU, it's really like exactly what you said. It's a pseudo elimination game. And LSU could very well be in the same boat. So, and this game is going to get billed highly based on the programs anyway, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer.
I'm with you. The following week, November the 15th, and again, I don't know that we need to get. There's some intriguing ball games. I mean, look at it. You got South Carolina and College Station. Could be a great football game.
Yep.
Alabama and Oklahoma and Tuscaloosa could be a great football game. You got Florida and Ole Miss and Oxford. Could be a great football game, but none of them supersede what's going to happen in Athens, Georgia. That's Texas and Georgia.
Yep. You get a matchup here. Texas was not able to pull off the win a couple times last year. I think they get it done this time, though. If I'm looking at it from a trajectory standpoint, from a talent standpoint, from a mindset, something is going on in Athens. Okay, I'm not saying that I don't think they're going to be good this year, but what we've seen, transfer portal has emptied out some depth for everybody at the top. Not saying that they're not still deep, but there are some issues. They ran into defensive line issues due to some injuries last year in Lexington and almost dropped that game, which would have just been bizarre and unprecedented. And I think that when we look at the off the field issues, which by the way keep happening, that still hasn't stopped. I don't know how many times they have to have some type of arrest or driving infraction, and Kirby just sweeps things under the rug from somebody who is actively utilized to build locker room bonds and mental emotional health in players. Something's going on. And at some point that is just gonna splinter things over there. And then you couple it with the comments that Kirby's making about motivation and complacency and all the things. I think something's happening. So I'm gonna give Texas the nod there. The things that I hear coming out of the locker room in Austin are kind of different. I think that there's a togetherness. I think that there is Michael Taft said before last year, I've heard zero conversations about NIL, zero conversations between players about this guy making this much, this guy making that much. He's like, we don't talk about it. It doesn't get brought up, which is surprising. I feel like that's an anomaly. Mm-hmm. But if that's the case, it's somewhere who reportedly is spending more money than anybody else this year. And I think the numbers are outrageous and unrealistic, but still they're spending a lot of money. I think that the game is more mental than it is physical a lot of times. And when you listen to the greatest coaches, the separating factors are in that top 2 or 3%. Can you have mental toughness? Can you have an edge in the moment? And I think this year, if I have to bet on somebody to have it between Georgia and Texas, I'm going with the Longhorns.
There'll be a lot of money running around the field, I can tell you that. In any other year, so Georgia, obviously didn't win a national championship last year. Florida has been down, but they're clearly this year, maybe primed to make a little bit of a comeback. Oklahoma was down last year, and we'll see what those guys look like. In any other year, again, this is where I have an issue with people just scrutinizing schedules before we even actually get a chance to see things. In any other year, you would look at Texas's schedule and you would go, man, that's difficult. They go to Athens, they go to the Swamp, they've got Oklahoma and Dallas, and they go to Columbus, Ohio. Like that's 3.5 road games nobody wants to play ever. I don't care how good you are. Like those are hard places to go win ball games. But because Georgia hasn't won a national championship in a couple of years, and Florida has been down, and Oklahoma's been a little bit down, it's like people don't even pay attention to that. They just look at, they got to go to Lexington. Yeah, they also go to the Swamp.
Yep.
They also go to Georgia in November. Who the hell wants to be there?
Yeah.
So we'll see. All right. Well, we got just a couple of minutes left here. November the 22nd, it's week 13. I've got Tennessee and Florida circled as it's a fairly weak slate, quite frankly, that week. You do have, Arkansas and Texas playing. You got Vanderbilt and Kentucky. I could make a case for Vanderbilt and Kentucky based on Mark Stoops' future, but I think it's already going to be decided before that. So I'm going to stay with Tennessee and Florida.
Yeah, actually,
on that quick note there, for the Gators, this could be like enormous beyond pale as far as getting into the playoffs, or it could be like if Billy Napier loses, is he gone? Who knows? I think there's going to be so many storylines that have the potential to surround this game. So Tennessee, Florida.
Agree completely with you there. I have both programs finishing the year at 7-5, and so this game says a lot. And I think that from Heupel's standpoint, you're going to get some grace considering what you've done. You got the college football playoff last year. You got the quarterback debacle. We're going to talk about that all year. They're not getting away from that conversation.
No,
unless Joey Aguilar comes in and lights it up. But 7-5 in Gainesville then brings if you lose this game, then the question becomes, are we able to hang on to Billy Napier any longer? And we talked a little bit last week about how on SEC Sunday night, their fans are so hysterical at this point that, their board of directors blocked the hiring of Santa Ono as the new president coming from the University of Michigan. They basically announced that he was taking the job, and the board of directors at Florida said, you're not getting this job. The posters on the message board say it connected it somehow to Billy Napier that now they're going to be stuck with him for 2 more years. They're looking for any way that somebody can come in and get him out. So it's already, as much as they've tried to smooth it over and say, oh yeah, we're going to put money towards players and we're not going to pay the buyout and we believe in him and whatever. We're not buying it. I'm not buying it. Mm-hmm. I think that this team rallied around him last year because he has an ability to get the locker room together. But I think that this team also rallied around DJ Lagway, and that was really what galvanized them. And so I just don't know. I don't think 7-5 gets it done.
All right. Gets us to the final weekend of the year, Rob. It's rivalry weekend. You got Auburn and Alabama in the Iron Bowl, as we know. Arkansas and Missouri will play. Florida and Florida State in Gainesville. Georgia Tech, they're in Atlanta. Kentucky and Louisville is in Louisville. LSU and Oklahoma is in Norman. The Egg Bowl, that's Friday. Friday afternoon, I think, is in Starkville.
I want to eat deviled eggs and watch the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving. Can we please move it back?
I don't think they're going to do that now with the NFL.
Yep.
You got A&M and the Longhorns in Austin, Vandy in Tennessee, and Knoxville. And then, of course, you got Clemson and South Carolina and Columbia. I've been saying this for weeks. This is not a homer thing at all. I think this is the most consequential Clemson-South Carolina game in its history.
Absolutely.
I think that will be. Look, I know that people are going to look at Texas and Texas A&M and the Iron Bowl is going to get look, all these things every year, they're always going to get their hype no matter how good the teams are, because traditionally they've been really good rivalries and really good football teams. But this will be a new blood thing for the TV networks this year, and ABC will get it somewhere. I think Clemson and South Carolina, this will be, in my opinion, this will be an elimination game of some sorts. If Clemson goes on to win the ACC championship, it won't eliminate them.
Right.
Clearly. But I do think if South Carolina loses this game, it has a chance to eliminate them from the playoffs. They're going to lose somewhere before this. And I think that this game could be very consequential to the Gamecocks, more so than the Tigers at this point in time, because of the 2 leagues that they play in. So I really thought hard about it. I really did. And, just looking at everything and the way that I think things can unfold, I think this is the one game where you could have 2 teams fighting for a playoff spot that are playing in the same game. I'm not sure that's going to be the case in Auburn, Alabama. I'm not sure it's going to be the case in LSU and Oklahoma. I'm not sure this is going to be the case in Texas A&M. So I think this is the one game, or Florida State. I think this is the one game where both teams have a chance to go to the college football playoff if they win the game.
Yep, I wholeheartedly agree. I'll give you a couple of picks here as we kind of shut it down. I'm high on Auburn. It's a weird thing because I don't really think that I believe in their quarterback situation or Hugh Freeze completely, but when I look at the schedule game by game, and it kind of removes bias when you're picking these things and you just look at it in a vacuum. So I think that Bama wins the game and both teams finish 9-3, and so that knocks them both out. I think I have Texas bookending the season with losses and winning everything else, so losing to start at Ohio State and then dropping this one to A&M. But 10-2 will still get them in. But I'm not going to give you the pick here in Columbia, but I agree with you. It's the number 1 game. I do think that it has major college football playoff implications. Again, top 10 matchup. One thing I will say is in the Shane Beamer era, who wins the game, JB? the away team.
Yeah.
So it gives me some pause. I'm very interested to see how it finishes up.
Well, another thing that happens,
number one for sure.
Another thing that happens in the Shane Beamer era is things that happen you don't expect. So who knows? We'll see. We got a long way to get there. We know we got to get you out of here. SEC Sunday night, 8:00 here on the Chief Sports Network. What are y'all doing this week?
Well, it's hot and heavy in Omaha, so we're going to be talking some baseball. We're working on a couple of people coming in from either LSU or Arkansas or both. So we'll see how that unfolds here in the next 24 hours to kind of shape up our guest list. But we do want to look at that matchup. We'll have the Saturday night matchup between those two teams already under our belt, so we'll be able to talk about that and kind of look at what has started to unfold. So we're excited to talk about that. We'll probably talk about Rocco's a little bit, just like you guys did yesterday, and then we'll just get into looking at some of these football schedules and stuff as well after we get the kick windows. But primarily going to be looking at are we going to get another national championship for the SEC?
Always appreciate the time, my man. Well done. And we'll see you on SEC Sunday night.
No doubt. Appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rob. There you go. Rob Williams, him and Craig McMichael host that program. You can tune in this Sunday. Their third SEC Sunday night here on the Chief Sports Network. We are brought to you by Resto Pros. Resto Pros MidlandsSC.com. It's 11:35. We'll step aside and be right back.
Hey, this is Cornbread Cowboy, and you're listening to the show. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions. Basement crawl space encapsulation designed for your specific needs. Your crawl space can be susceptible to all sorts of issues, including moisture buildup, mold growth, and structural damage if not cared for properly. Let our trained experts provide basement crawl space encapsulation solutions to protect your home, improve air quality, and enhance energy efficiency. Schedule your consultation today for a safer, healthier space at dryspacecs.com. Dry Space Crawl Space Solutions, proud supporters of your South Carolina Gamecocks.
The Aventon Adventure 2 takes the same basic design as the original Aventon Adventure, making it an adventure bike designed to take you places that typical roads just don't reach, allowing you to ride whatever terrain you want based on your whims of the day. Look at what you're getting. Hydraulic disc brakes, torque sensor for responsive pedal assist, great LED lighting, suspension, a beautifully welded frame with excellent build quality, included rear rack, included fenders. The list just keeps going on.
Visit electricbikescharleston.com for more.
Happy summer from the Barn Dominium Company, where they are building dream homes all across the Carolinas. Their turnkey process can be custom designed, and you build it your way. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com for floor plans, photo galleries, locations, and to learn more about us. Gamecock owned and operated.
Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville, Mount Pleasant, Myrtle Beach, and Bluffton, and online at palmcasual.com for our products in out-of-state locations. Go Gamecocks!
You're tuned into Inside the Gamecocks The Morning Show. Presented by Palm Casual Outdoor Patio Furniture. Go Gamecocks!
We say our prayers, sing to the sky. Bust off bags, barely getting by. Carolina to California, up to Illinois. Yeah, there's guys like us. Yeah, there's guys
Porch in the pocket, and so is Carolina.
Here goes Allen inside the 10. A huge play for the Gamecocks.
Oh, hurt me. Boom. This place has gone nuts. Lenore Sellers going left side. Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown.
There's nothing like Williams-Brice Stadium on a Saturday night. Hello, Mad Dog.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Well, we're just living the dream over this way.
That's right. Summertime, living it up, talking SEC football schedule.
Yeah,
We're all pining away for kickoff.
Well, it's crazy. Look, I know the point of it is I just think there's so many teams that are really kind of all in the same category.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is I'm not saying that they're all the exact same talent level, but there is a factor or two that could nod the record one way or another from 8-4 to 9-3 to 10-2. I mean, if you look at the SEC and you say, well, who doesn't have a chance? Because that's an easier conversation to have as it stands today to be in the playoffs. Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy, Mississippi State. Those are surefire no's. Okay, Bama does. It's a surefire yes. Georgia does. It's a surefire yes. LSU does. That's a surefire yes. Texas. I think South Carolina. And then the rest of them are all like, well, we don't really know. Like if things go well, schedule sets up, quarterback who they brought in from the transfer portal does what he's capable of doing. You see what I'm saying? Like I mean, I'm including South Carolina in the surefire yes category of having a chance. The rest of them, I'm saying you pull an upset here and there. Very much like going into last year with the Gamecocks. They probably will be a little bit better. Well, all of a sudden they're knocking on the door of the playoffs.
Right.
And that's my point. It's like, all right, well, I just rattled off 9 teams, 5 yeses, 4 nos. Where are the other 7? They're right there in the middle. They're in Auburn, for instance. If they beat Baylor and they beat Ball State and they beat South Alabama, they're 3-0. What happens if they pull an upset in Norman? They're 4-0. You got Missouri, you got Arkansas, you got Kentucky, you got Vanderbilt, you got Mercer still on the schedule. That's 5. That's 9. And then you got Alabama, you got Georgia. Alabama's at home. You got to go to A&M at College Station. You pull an upset, you got 10. You see what I'm saying? I mean, but what happens if they get beat in Fayetteville by Arkansas with Taylor Green? So I just it's look, I don't love the setup of the transfer portal. Not a big fan. Never have been. Okay. The one thing that I can give this sport a little bit of credit for, it's at the expense of the sanity of college football coaches and staff, but it's much to the happy meter of fans as this time of year has turned into as unpredictable as we've ever been able to imagine. I mean, I will say, to Mike's point, you can pretty much always circle 4 teams that you think have a chance to go win the whole deal. There's no question about that. I got it. I get it. But it's a bigger field now. Right. And teams like South Carolina just want to get into it. Let's see what happens. And that's what makes it all that better. And this league is that they have more teams. Like, Phil, we've talked about this before. If you ask me, like, what is the strength of a league? What is the strength of the league? So I always look to the middle. Like, where are the blue collar teams? Tell me about those guys. Take the 1 or 2 teams at the very top. Take the 1 or 2 teams at the very bottom, and let's remove them from the conversation. Who's in the middle? How good is that group? Yeah, and that's where I think you get the strength of the SEC every year versus all these other teams. You could argue that the top of the Big Ten is as good or better than this conference, and I would have no issues with that. But I don't think you can argue that in any other league. number one. And then what other league can you take basically the whole middle of it and say, yeah, I don't know, they can all beat each other depending on who's playing, where they're playing. It's just crazy. So somebody mentioned earlier about Alabama and South Carolina. That's got to be a night game. Well, of course, you know, if you're a Gamecock football fan, you know, everybody wants to see the Tide come to town at night.
7.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the last time Alabama played in Williams-Brice Stadium in a night game, because I could tell you, obviously 2010 was a day game. 2019 was a day game. Prior to that, 2001, Rod Trafford's touchdown, that was a day game. Hell, I don't know if Alabama's ever played here at night. Somebody remind me of any of those games in the shoot. I don't even know if they played in the 90s. I need to go back and look at the schedule.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I like your formula for judging the strength of a conference, but it's so interesting that the national media, I think, has got SEC. Some have SEC fatigue, others have, you know, that jealousy from not being in that conversation, and it gets spun, in my opinion. Like last year, the narrative was, well, the SEC was obviously down. Was it? Was the SEC down, or is there just better competition?
Yeah,
right. I mean, that's the thing that really bothers me, is that, you know, not that I'm a huge conference homer or anything like that. Obviously, I mean, I pull for and back 100% one team. Beyond that, I really don't care. But I think there is a level of honesty that needs to be, you know, kind of inherent in the conversation when it comes to the national media, and it often gets skewed.
Yeah, not to interrupt what you're saying here. I don't think I wasn't around in 1946, but I don't think they had. I don't think they had lights at that point in time. I think it was Carolina Stadium, so that couldn't have been a night game. 1993 was in Columbia. I know I was at the game, and I'm pretty sure that was a day game. I'm almost positive that was a day game. I remember. I think I was probably 8 years old, and we sat in the north end zone at that point in time. The students sat in the south end zone. I think that was a day game. 2001, I was there for that game. That was a day game.
Yeah, that was daytime. Yeah.
2005, Coach Spurrier's first year, that was a day game. So they've never played here at night.
I don't think so.
2010 and 2019.
So this year would be perfect. Let's just go ahead and come on.
Yeah, 2010 ended in the evening because it was a 3:30 kick. That was in October. The sun was beginning to go down. But they've never been here in a true night game. I honestly, let's see here. I think the last night game that these teams they played at night in 2009. That was the Mark Ingram game, 20-6, the final score. And then they played at night in 2004. I was at that game in Tuscaloosa. We beat them 20-3. John Strickland has referenced that game a few times here. Ran it down their throats all night long. There's nothing Mike Shula and his team could do about it. Now Mike's on this team. The funny thing is, going back to when South Carolina entered the SEC. All right, entered the SEC. Okay, 1992 is the first time that these teams played. 92, Bama wins big, 48-7. 93, Bama wins 17-6. They didn't play again until 2000. Okay, Phil. Alabama won that game.
Yeah.
In Coach Holtz's second year, it was a good game, but they won it 27-17. I remember. I wasn't at the game, but I do remember it. I think that was a Jefferson Pilot game. So Bama at that point in time is 3-0 against the Gamecocks since South Carolina entered the SEC. Okay, follow me here. Don't go to sleep on me, Phil.
No.
Don't Todd Walker me here.
That's right.
All right. Gamecocks get them and they clip them 37-36. Rod Trafford touchdown pass in 2001. The great Dave Neal called that game, as a matter of fact, that That was a people talk about some of the loudest atmospheres at Williams-Brice. I guess there's a lot of people that just haven't started going to games until like the last 5 years. Because I can remember that game like it was yesterday in 2001, as loud as it was. I remember, that was Georgia in 2000. Golly, I remember all kinds of 2001 Florida. They beat the crap out of South Carolina, but how loud that was. I remember 1993 Tennessee, 92 Tennessee. Whatever year Hank stopped him on the goal line. God, there's so many big games. It was just loud and ringing in your ears. Like he didn't need to pump in the music. It was loud. Mm-hmm. So they're 3-1, and then Carolina gets them again in Tuscaloosa. So at that point in time, since the Gamecocks entered the league, Bama owns the series 3-2. Okay. 2005 happens, Alabama 4-2. 2009 happens, Alabama 5-2. 2010 5-3, and then the last two. So 7-3. Alabama versus South Carolina. They own the series since the Gamecocks have been in the SEC. It's a shame that they've been in the league since 1992. It's 2025, and they've played 10 times. Less than a third of the seasons they have played the University of Alabama. I don't like that.
No.
All right. But Alabama 7-3 in that 10 games. Not bad, right, Phil? Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Gamecocks holding their own. Knocked them off when they were number one. Knocked them off in 2004 in their own turf. Okay. In 1993, Bama got in trouble. They got in trouble again after 2005. Both of those games have been forfeited. So this series is all even at 5 apiece since the Gamecocks entered the Southeastern Conference in 1992. Find a team other than Auburn, maybe, that has a better record against the University of Alabama in the last 33 years.
Than a 500 record.
Case closed.
That's it. That's it.
South Carolina, if they win this year, will be 6-5 against Alabama since they entered the league.
Officially own the Tide. Yeah. Officially own the Tide with a win this year.
Yeah, that's right. And then can this series get rid of this thing?
That's right. It'd be, and then another 10 years before Carolina sees Alabama again. Folks in Birmingham will be like that. We can't do this.
Right.
It's not good for this. Is not good for us.
Yeah. That would be tremendous. Alabama 4. Is there any team that's been on probation more than the University of Alabama? I don't know. But as it pertains to that weekend, though, and can they? And again, we'll get some windows today. That week, A&M is at LSU. That series, every home team has won the game since 2017, and they have played every year. So every year, if you've been at home, LSU won every game from 2011 until 2017, and then that's when the back and forth went. So that game's in Baton Rouge this year. So we'll see. You got Tennessee at Kentucky. Who knows? But remember, there's multiple night kicks now. You got SEC Network, you got ESPN, you got ABC.
Yeah,
ABC.
Three options. Yeah. And then the plus game, Mm-hmm.
Right. Now that one obviously won't be on plus, but yeah, to your point, Missouri's at Vanderbilt, Ole Miss is at Oklahoma. I think this is like you're looking at this weekend. It's probably a flex weekend. Auburn is at Arkansas. I don't know. And then you got to go outside of that. You got to look at the ACC too, and see what's going on there. I don't see anything that really stands out that says that would supersede any of those that I just mentioned. Golly, Stanford's got to go to Miami. You think anybody will actually go to that game?
Oh my goodness, there might be
1,500
people there.
Talk about two different fan bases. What does Mike always say about the Miami fan base? Like the pest control.
Oh gosh, yeah. Bro with a tattoo on his deltoid or whatever with a U.
Mike, come on, man. Like the guy that owns the pest control company that I use, McFadden, they're the best people on the planet. Those are my true friends. Like, yeah, come on. Maybe in Miami. Not up here. These are my guys.
It's. I don't think it's so much against the pest control folks as it
Yeah,
is.
let's not go against the whole industry. You know,
No,
like
yeah.
I love these guys, and thankfully they keep the pests out of my home and the mosquitoes away.
Right. Yeah.
Shout out
got a fellow McFadden user. Look at that.
All right, yeah, there you go. Tell Heath you heard about it here, or maybe on our old shows or ESPN. Yeah, Heath and Turtle and those guys, they're the best, man. They're the best. You have a problem, you call them. Heath's mom answers the phone. We'll get him right out there. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lori. Yeah, so I think that'll be flex. I think A&M and LSU, Bama and South Carolina, and Ole Miss, Oklahoma. You got those three there. You're talking about nighttime atmospheres. There won't be better nighttime atmosphere. I mean, no disrespect to Oklahoma. It's a wonderful place. But you won't find a better nighttime atmosphere at that point in time than A&M, LSU, Alabama, South Carolina. So I think those will be flexed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it even just because I mean, what they're trying to do obviously is project the level of intrigue, right? 10 weeks out, which is tough to do.
Yeah.
But just the way, like looking at some of the storylines coming off of last year, I think that narrow escape from Alabama at home last year against South Carolina warrants enough for there to be more preseason attention to the matchup this year. And then you take the venue into account, which always puts Carolina, I think, in a better spot than most teams when it comes to what do we want to have on TV. There's not going to be a more lit place than that, assuming that things break the right way for Carolina on that weekend with that team coming into that stadium.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And there's history. There's a storyline. You got Lenore Sellers. I mean, you got it all. I mean, you got it all. There's no doubt about it. I think Carolina will see their share of night games this year. We know they're already going to see two in Columbia, but certainly as you look at the rest of the schedule, I think they'll get their share of night kicks. All right, real quick here, so I haven't gotten to the baseball stuff. They did pick up a couple of commitments yesterday from Bradley Hodges, the lefty out of Virginia, kind of a low 90s guy who I would say, how would I want to put this? Let's see here. I would say he's probably safe to assume he's another bullpen piece at this point, but we'll see. We'll see. I know he got some starts this year, but they were all limited, kind of got into the rotation late. And but as it stands now, that's where it would be. And then once things get going, and then Tyler Bach of Wofford, he's an outfielder, kind of a more traditional slap it around, gap to gap guy. He can run them down. He's not going to be a big power dude. They've already recruited a ton of power in this thing, but he is a true outfielder. Some of the guys that are already on the lists that are coming in will be they'll get their shot out there and see how this thing kind of comes together. What does Carolina need? They still need a starting pitcher. I would say a full-fledged burner if they can find one, and they probably need to find another outfield guy. The infielders, they've got all they need unless there's a real surprise that happens, and potentially maybe a catcher. I'd feel better if they signed one more behind the plate. I know that it's a big week in Columbia, we'll put it that way, for baseball and softball as far as players taking visits to campus. And right now, I believe I did the math last night. I believe they're over the 34, and December 1st, you have to be at 34. And so there's going to be some roster stuff that's going to end up having to play out, but I would say let it play out. And that's where it is right now.
Yeah, we'll see.
Hello, JC.
Hi. 2 o'clock is when they announced the window. So right when Phil and I are off the air.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So,
well, I saw that. I actually sent Herb and those guys an email at the league office, and he said that was the plan. They were going to wait till y'all shut it down before they got anything out.
That's typical.
Fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the windows will be announced today. Did y'all ever figure out when Alabama played Carolina at night at Williams-Brice?
They never have.
Yes, they have.
Oh,
then it would have had to have been in '93.
It was
it wasn't any of this. Okay,
It was in 93.
all right.
That was a big.
Oh, so it was a
huge-
night.
It was a big,
All
huge
right.
night game, and
I remember now.
I remember because Alabama. That was the first time Alabama came to Carolina, and their fans boosters bought billboards around Columbia saying the Tide rolls in on this date. It was still a big game because Carolina lost a lot of close ones that year, and after beating Georgia in the opener, the season hadn't completely tanked yet. It was 17-6. The final was 76, closer than the game the year before, but Bama did win and get out with a win. Gene Stallings, the defending national champ, if you will, in 1993.
Yeah, but Carolina won the game because it was forfeited by Alabama. So, as I pointed out, since South Carolina has entered the SEC, this series is all knotted up at 5 apiece because of 2 forfeits, or it would be 7-3 in favor of the Tide.
Just 2 forfeits. It's funny with Bama and Carolina. You go to Alabama, and it's probably not like this anymore since South Carolina's beaten Auburn twice in a row, but it used to be Auburn fans had no respect for South Carolina at all. None.
Yeah.
Didn't matter how good they were, Spurrier, whoever. Alabama fans, though, acted like, South Carolina was Ohio State. I mean, even A.J. McCarron one time was doing an example. He's like, yeah, you're rolling along with this team, and next thing you know, you're playing South Carolina and Atlanta. Of course, South Carolina never got to Atlanta to play Alabama, but their fans have a lot of respect for, and I'm on in Tuscaloosa actually every Thursday, and with Wimp and Barry Sanders, and they ask me about this game all the time. They're scared. I mean, I don't want to say scared because they're Alabama, but this is one they've got circles going, my God, that's not going to be fun.
I think that all of that changed in 2010 because I was in Tuscaloosa in 2004, and I didn't feel like they really cared that South Carolina was in town. I think it was just that nobody was rude. Matter of fact, I've been to Tuscaloosa many times. I had a great experience, to be honest with you. But I didn't feel like they looked at this as anything other than, well, we just got to play the game and then it'll be over. Of course, we beat them that night and everybody's kind of pissed off. And then in 2005, they kind of returned the favor. And then in 2009, we know what happened with Mark Ingram. And of course, they won the national championship. But in 2010, like, I think that the Spurrier deal brought a whole new aspect to this series. I'm not calling it a rivalry. And I think that the credit that Nick Saban began giving opponents was a big deal. Because JC, I think that Alabama started, I think a lot of their fans, not the delusional ones, everybody's got those, but I think a lot of their fans began looking at the blue-collar teams in the SEC and understanding, okay, we're back at the top. This is everybody's SEC championship game when they play us. Mississippi State, Arkansas, at that point in time, Ole Miss, the Gamecocks, and so on and so forth, right? I think it just brought a new respect to the rivalry. I think you're exactly right. I totally agree. I think that most people in Tuscaloosa and Alabama fans actually appreciate this series. When I've been in Auburn and when Auburn has come to Columbia, I've had the opposite of what you've said. I've always thought Auburn folks really kind of questioned why they had never lost to South Carolina until the Gamecocks started beating them a few years ago. I think they were
they're nice.
Stunned by that.
Yeah, I mean, they're nice, but and there have been some close calls. I just I just always kind of felt like until you beat them, you're not going to have that respect. It's just kind of based on like people I've talked to over there, but it was just kind of funny for a while. But South Carolina, Alabama it's been a challenging series for the Tide. I mean, it hasn't been a rollover. So
no, mostly.
And look, this sets up, in 09, I remember G.A. Mangus told me over the summer about that Alabama game coming up in 2010. He's like, our kids aren't scared of them because of what happened last year, where South Carolina went toe to toe. If it hadn't been for the Wildcat and Ingram, they could have won. They dropped a touchdown pass. It was 20-6 was the final. It was 13-6 right to the end. And sure enough, they beat him. I don't think South Carolina's going to be scared of Alabama coming in this time either, because it was certainly a competitive game in Tuscaloosa where Gamecocks sort of dominated 2 quarters of the game and Alabama dominated the other 2.
Yeah. Well, in 1992 and 1993, when the Gamecocks played the Tide, Steve Tannehill was the quarterback both of those games, right?
Well, the first one, Sparky started Blake Williamson.
But Steve
came in at
Steve came in the game.
He went like 10 for 17
and
played well in mop-up duty. Dabo Swinney was on that Alabama team.
Yeah.
Called a pass. But it's 48-7. It was not a close one. Then the next year
Steve
was relatively close. 17-6. But, and then I was at the game in 2000 when Kimry got the start.
Oh, I was there.
Petty was hurt, and that was I was in the end zone. We drove all night from Columbia.
Well,
me and my buddy.
We'll bring that up.
Lost.
We'll bring that up tomorrow because Steve Tannehill is going to be on the morning show with me tomorrow.
Good.
In hour number 1.
Good.
And we're just going to tee him up and let him go. So I'm going to see if I can't grow my mullet out before we get on the air.
He's a great interview, man. Every time he's
Steve.
been on here, he's either had like a history lesson or offensive philosophy advice.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, he's right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like Steve. Fan of him as a person, et cetera, et cetera. It's been good to me for a long time, and we enjoy getting him on and just let him go. Get him on and let him. It's like the dog and Joe Dirt. He'll be finished when he's done humping.
The mullet. I love the subtle psychological subtext there from mullet to Joe Dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Easy connection.
Yep.
Thanks to Alex and Rob Williams for popping in with me earlier today. Thanks to Phil. As always, Steve Tannehill tomorrow, Stuart Lake tomorrow. We'll talk some World Series stuff with him and dip into the Gamecocks a little bit too and get an update on Jim Toman. Excited for that. Hey, by the way, next week, Lipsy's Locker returns.
Oh.
Kyle Lipsy will be back next week. Lipsy's Locker. We had some fun with that last time. I got more response on Kyle Lipsy. I'm like, Caleb, really?
Mm-hmm.
That was y'all's. That was it, huh? So that'll be next week sometime, middle of the week somewhere. All right, gentlemen, enjoy the afternoon. We'll be watching.
I love it.
Have screamed in terror that fine day. Saw that purple wig and did not know what to say. It left me sort of startled and confused. Red lips and white makeup and those big old red shoes. But my daddy tore a knot in me for being so damn rude. He said, son, don't you know that clowns are people too? Clowns are people too. Big red shoes. Don't be rude. If you weren't a bit lucky, then this could easily be you. I met your mom when she was up on that old trapeze. What can I say but hey, I had a thing for circus freaks. I started watching Bozo and warmed to the movie It. Killer Clowns from Outer Space to me was a big hit. Some people like McDonald's because of Mayor McCheese, but Ronald is my homeboy now, and Krusty and Pinky. Clowns are people too, big red shoes. Clowns are people too, don't be rude. If you weren't a bit lucky, then this could easily be you. I met your mom when she was up on that old trapeze. What can I say but hey, I had a thing for circus freaks. Clowns are people too. Clowns are people too. Now I own some tiny horns and got me those red shoes. I don't know much, but know one thing that's true. If you don't know anything, just know that clowns are people too.
Welcome to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, part of the Chief Sports Network.
Mad Dog's upstate raised and reared up near the tater patch. He flirted with that upstate team, now bleeds garnet and black. It's been almost 2 decades since JC started Big Spur. He may live outside of Chicago, but he's all Spartanburg. It's the show, the Gamecock Show. ITG, Phil and JC, it's the show. It's fun and entertainment, but also information, things you cannot get on radio. It's the show. Gather around, all you Gamecocks, it's the show. The show, the show. Let's go. JC and Mad Dog Mully on the Gamecock Show.
Welcome in, everybody. It is Inside the Gamecocks The Show here for a wide open Wednesday. Get you through the hump day. Phil, Mad Dog Mullinax, JC Sherbert in with you to kick off the afternoon. T-minus about an hour and 48 minutes before the SEC releases its scheduling windows for the rest of the football season. Really looking forward to that. Enjoy the fact that they do the scheduling windows, JC. It allows for a little bit of planning. It's probably, some huge marriage lobby that is, gone down there to Birmingham and created this so that you don't have to frown upon fall weddings quite so much or schedule them around bye weeks.
The anti-Josh Pate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done going to, because I got, we got 2 stepsons now. I got 2 stepsons now, and I'm done going to the fall weddings. Yeah, I'm gonna be, I've done my fall sacrifice with the youngest one because he's got varsity football through, the end of October, sometimes into November. So I can't. I mean, Missouri, that game would be like a maybe for me. It's 6 hours from here. But I can't get to Columbia because there's no flights out in the morning. And it's insane. But I'm looking forward to it because he's going to start at tackle this year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Congrats.
That's going to be so much better for me than watching him sit on the sidelines in all but one game. And watch that team play. Oh my God. And they got a new offensive coordinator this year, thank God, because that was donkey. And it's just not my style of football. If I'm going to watch a high school team and cheer for, it's going to be Burns, the school, I'd go. I went to a lot of high school football games covering recruiting, Phil, but you're kind of on the sidelines watching players.
Right.
And sometimes if you're in an area that one's close together, you kind of do like the college coaches do. You'll catch a half of one, half of another. So it's just about individual players. And so I found myself in games this year watching the other team's individual players and not necessarily cheering for them, but like giving commentary to Nat about how they're playing and gosh, it didn't do well in that one. What are you talking about? Our team, but she's all in.
Right.
Like she's all in with the team. It's all about, go Lockport Porters and all
It's
that.
like she's got the pom-poms and the whole nine right now.
Yeah, man. So I think I'm going to be much more engaged this year because the 8 plays he played last year, I watched every play and was just like, into it. And I did that at JV and freshman too. I mean, it's a different feeling, and I could go back to watching individual players again. So imagine that you go to football games and watch the right tackle every play. Get a different perspective of the game.
It's like my Sunday watch after a Carolina game, right? Like that's when I'm of a clear head and trying to actually look at it from an objective standpoint and not just a fan standpoint. It was like, all right, let's just spend the next 30 minutes looking at the 2 lines of scrimmage.
What in the heck actually happened?
Right. Yeah. Right.
But yeah, looking at it, I think in general, if you're the Gamecocks, I think it's good the more road games that are during the day, and it's good the more night games, more home games are night at Williams-Brice. And it's interesting. I thought, I felt like, Phil, the South Carolina State game would be at night because it's the home opener, and if you're and sometimes the streaming game, the school has a lot of say in like which one it is.
Nice.
And it's in early September. It's going to be hot. A night game would do everybody some good, home opener wise. And so it's at 7 and it's ESPN or SEC Network Plus or whatever. The Vandy game kind of surprised me, either ESPN or SEC Network at 7:30, but I think that's going to work out because that Vandy team, the last thing you want to have them do is come in at noon with a crowd. Let's say South Carolina hypothetically handles Virginia Tech and handles SC State and they're ranked in the top 13. And let's just say hypothetically Virginia Tech beats Vandy and Blacksburg, which all could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got that bunch coming in and you're like, well, we beat Virginia Tech. Y'all lost to Virginia Tech.
Yeah, but transitive property says we're going to win this game. So,
17 times in a row. I just think I'm going to sit here and have another Miller Lite before I walk in the stadium after 2001.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not going to roll in until halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah, Diego Pavia goes on a 97-yard drive that,
Next thing you're down 10-0. You're like, how the hell did this happen?
I remember the Vandy game in 2007 when they came in and kind of similar. But at night, SEC home opener, I mean, fans are going to be chomping at the bit. It's going to be electric. I mean, I'm trying to think of the tough atmospheres Vandy played in last season because they had a road game at Georgia State. There may have been more Vandy fans there. I don't know.
Or they took an L too.
They took an L. Yeah. But they played at Auburn. But that was was that a night game? They played at Kentucky in the evening.
I know that Bama game was a night game.
But that was in Nashville.
Oh yeah, not a road game.
Yeah, road game. Yeah. So
I don't know.
I like I'm trying to think. At Kentucky would have been loud, at least because Kentucky hadn't completely given up. They gave up after that. Auburn, I think Auburn may have been during the day. They didn't play at Tennessee. They didn't really have very many big road games last year, Phil.
No,
the Commodores. So they played at LSU, and I don't remember, but that was after LSU was sitting there at 6-4 at that point in time after they had lost to A&M like they did. And I think it was kind of a back and forth. Vandy ended up losing by 7, but they were down. It was like they were down 14, down 7. I mean, and I think Vandy had an early lead in that one. And so that's kind of what happened. But it is wide open Wednesday, so we see all kinds of people in the Nana's Porch chat box. Certainly appreciate you folks joining us. If you'd like to join us every day for the low price of $4.99 a month, you can join Club Chief. That's through YouTube only at this point. Marcus is in the Nana Sports chat box. Says, JC, can we have a tailgate party for the Alabama game? You guys are welcome to have a tailgate party before the Alabama game. Like I just mentioned with the Moose's high school schedule. And it sucks because my 30-year high school reunion at Burns is that week.
And, wow.
And it's kind of, they got a new stadium at Burns this year, and it's kind of revolving around a home game with Spartanburg High School, the Vikings, which I would have loved to have gone to, and then head on down to Columbia for the Bama game, shut my mouth, spank my butt, and call me Susan. I would love to do that. But family comes first. So
okay, that's right. That's right.
But that's it. But we may do something later in the year. Jeff got clowns or people too stuck in his head. It is my wife tells, I can't even mention it around the house, Phil.
Right. No.
Because it's like, you're awful. She's scared of clowns. But Krager mentions Texas Tech's paying $55 million for its sports programs next year. That's not all in NIL, I don't think, or maybe it is, but they've got a tech bro that sold his business for millions. I forget his name.
Cody.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name, though.
And hey, in this era that hopefully ended with the House settlement, that was fine.
Yeah, right.
You get the benefit of that. That's fine with me. Brandon asked, JC, have you put a crystal ball prediction in on Trey Aiken yet? I saw he got one to NC State last week. I'm still kind of digging on that. I don't know what the situation exactly is there. He's still supposed to visit. Maybe he just liked NC State a lot. Maybe he thinks he has a better chance to start there. Depth chart. Maybe it's just feedback from the NC State coaching staff. I don't know. But I have not put one in just because I'm trying to kind of figure out how many offensive linemen they're going to actually take this year. Bobby says Moose at right tackle is good for business. Yeah, it's good for me because I keep my head in the game and all that good stuff. Tiffany says, JC, will Tree start at left guard most likely? Also, what is the injury status for the two transfer offensive linemen? Oh, I know Nick Sharp is hurt. Who else was hurt?
I'm not sure who else was
on the offensive line.
Offensive line, yeah, that's what
I think Sharp's going to be back. I mean, none of that was the only one that's up questionable for the year is Jalen Brown. And well, I think Tree will start. I don't know. I've heard mixed things. I would guess he would. I don't know who else would start left guard, Phil. Marquis Anderson?
Yeah, Marquis maybe would be the other one I would think.
We don't know what Nick Sharp's going to bring to the table, but they're going to start at the left. And Tree also is playing tackle some too. I mean, he's the backup at both tackle positions.
Yeah.
Casey Henry obviously missed some time in the spring. You got to be careful with him. But I believe Tree will be starting, but you never know. I didn't think Kamar Bell would be starting last year, and he started the whole season. So what do I know?
Yeah.
I like Tree as one of their 5 best, though. I'll just be honest with you on that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe if he struggled more at guard than they thought he would. I heard he was doing well and playing it a lot. So Strickland said the same thing. So I think Tree will. I've always thought he was the left guard, but they're going to battle it out and compete, Tiffany. So we'll certainly see. Clinton plays, Brandon chimes in, the Clinton Red Devils, where Trey Aiken is, plays Woodruff in week 0. Woodruff has a stud running back the game. Yeah, we've talked about him before, Aiden from Woodruff. And, Gamecocks are looking in good shape for him. He's class of 2027. Clinton and Woodruff is kind of an old rivalry in that way, isn't it, Brandon? Didn't Clinton and Woodruff used to be like they both used to be more than solid teams, the Red Devils and Wolverines. I think I remember that. And Brandon brings up the 2007 Vanderbilt game. I was not a happy camper at that game. It's the last time, Phil, usually where you sit up in where you
in the South Upper,
South Upper, which are awesome seats.
I love them.
I hadn't been up there in a while. But look, it's that's the last time I sat up there. I was not in a good mood after they lost, and this lady started clapping because Bobby Johnson, the coach, was from Columbia. Oh, and I kind of said something under my breath loud. my ex-brother-in-law was sitting with me, and he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't do that." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." I know. So, yeah. So there you go with that. So Billy says 88 to 1988. Second play from Peter Tom Willis, 50-yard bomb, 59-0. Deion Sanders said they couldn't hear the coaches talking because of the car door slamming. I remember that game, 88, yeah, because Clemson had played Florida State. It was a thing in 1988, Phil.
That was Billy.
No, I call Bill King Phil on Thursday.
Oh, that's funny. That you get it.
Bill Phil. But it was a thing in 88 because Florida State was powerhouse. And South Carolina and Clemson both did not play them in 87. Clemson hadn't played them in a while. Carolina had played them in 86. 85, 84, and I think they'd played. Florida State and South Carolina played frequently. So Clemson played them in Memorial Stadium. It was on CBS, Brent Musburger and all that hullabaloo. Clemson, I remember they had a car that they had painted that says on the pregame broadcast, like an old car. It said FSU, and they were just beating the hell out of it before the game up at Clemson. And I mean, it was a great football game. Deion and all that, and Bobby Bowden ran that was the punt Ruski. Remember Leroy Butler?
Oh yeah,
all the way down the field and ruined the day for the Tigers. So later in the year, South Carolina's ranked, feeling good about themselves, and the steroid. 88 was just a cruel year. You want to talk about having the rug pulled out from under you. South Carolina was pretty good. And they had gotten off to a good start. They had beaten Georgia at home. They were undefeated. Gone up to Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer's second team, and survived. 26-24. And so then they are going to Georgia Tech. And I remember this game because as a lifelong fan of the Atlanta sports teams at the time, I don't care about the NBA, so I don't follow the Hawks. And the Falcons, I still pull for, but I also pull for the Bears. So I'm still a Braves fan, though. And so I kind of like Georgia Tech because of Bobby Crimmins. I thought it was kind of neat. You know, it was the first time Carolina had played Georgia Tech in a while. And they were going over there, and Bobby Ross was the coach at Tech. He had just started. It wasn't a very good team. And they were not good. And Carolina was undefeated, a big favorite. And I remember two things about that day because the game was not on TV. Yeah, I had to listen to Bob Fulton on the radio. I remember listening to Phil Kornblut and Sports Talk that night, and they were broadcasting live from the Marriott Marquis in Atlanta. And I was like, and I remember I had stayed there with my dad and mom a couple of years ago. We went to Six Flags in a Braves game. I was like, oh man, it'd be great to be at that hotel. How exciting right before the game. Right. This all laid the groundwork for my love of traveling and watching Gamecock football through the years. That'd be exciting to be there. And boy, Sports Talk's there. Now you can catch Sports Talk on our app.
Right.
Which is, it's still a great show, you know. And I remember hearing Phil say, and I was like, I'm so excited about this. And then the next day I turn it on, Bob Fulton, Tommy Suggs, and Tommy says, I believe I have them outnumbered today, Bob. And they did, you know, because Georgia Tech, if they aren't winning and you are, and you're anywhere within driving distance, you can fill up that stadium.
Yeah, it's an easy takeover.
More than half. Yeah, it's a takeover. And boy, that game went, and Georgia Tech used to have this big inflatable not a Buzz, their mascot, a big inflatable yellow jacket in the end zone. That was their thing. They've since changed the end zone, obviously. And so I'm sitting there and boy, interception, pick six. Georgia Tech was up 31-0 at halftime. and then kicked a field goal. And Carolina never scored that day. That was when the steroid scandal had broken in Sports Illustrated. So obviously a very distracted team, I would say. The next game was at NC State, and Carolina had beaten NC State's butt pretty good. It was actually a night game on ESPN, Phil.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Up in Raleigh, and Carolina, Patrick Hitton, I think, had a pick six. And I remember Todd Ellis threw a touchdown and did the 6-shooter to the stands. I think everybody on that team hated NC State for good reason at the time. That got heated. 86 when the ACC refs kind of cheated Carolina out of an upset win. Dick Sheridan was the coach there at the time. He was a Carolina alum. And then 87, NC State didn't cross the 50. I think they had 32 yards of offense. I think it's still a record. The next year, Ellis 6-shooted them. Then the next year, when Sparky took over in 89, Carolina's 5-1-1 and ranked. And the third play of the game, Ellis takes a hit and his knee blew out, and that was it. And so, but Carolina rallied and beat NC State. So now there's this Titanic again on ESPN at night against Florida State. The same weekend that the Charlotte Hornets played their very first NBA basketball game.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching it. I was like, how cool is this? Charlotte has a team, blah, blah, blah. And boy, I was fired up as a kid. You know, how old was I in 88? I was about to turn 12, so 11, 12. You know, and I'm sitting there and watch. They had a beautiful 2001, and the place was packed. I mean, it looked just like the Clemson game the previous year. And Casey Weldon was the starting quarterback for FSU. He's a really good player. And they had Weldon had an injury, couldn't go. And old Bobby Bowden, I declare. Mm-hmm. I just think we're gonna start Peter Tom today. And Dion was on that team, and like Billy said, 2 plays in, play action, over the top. I remember that play. I remember that play for a long time because it became one of Mark Richt's staple plays, the deep post on the play action out of the eye at Georgia. And if I'm not mistaken, and maybe I'm wrong about this because, you know, some of these plays get fuzzy. Mike Bobo has a pretty lethal long pass play called Demon. You may have seen it in Alabama, Georgia last year and all that. You can't, if you have a lethal play, you can't call it all the time, obviously, because people will adjust to it. But the play, remember Jalen Brooks dropped that touchdown against A&M in 2020?
Oh, yes, that was it.
That was Demon. And I think it kind of came out of that. But obviously, the Florida State quarterback hit it. It's again 31-0 at halftime. But instead of taking it easy on the Gamecocks, the Noles rolled to a 59-0 win in 1988. So that's Jeff says NC State was the best one of the year. Absolutely, it was. Well, Georgia, how bad was Georgia? Was Georgia not very good in 88? Maybe they weren't. That may have been one. Sometimes Carolina has played Georgia, and Georgia's been highly ranked, and then they've quarterback's gotten hurt or something, and then they kind of limp to the end.
Yeah, they finished with a 9-3 overall mark.
Georgia did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was Georgia was
Dooley's 25th year.
I think that was Dooley's last year too.
Might have been.
I think Goff took over in 89 because Carolina went down there and beat him again in Sparky's first year. Now that wasn't a very good team, and I think that was Ray Goff. 24-20, but that game was 23-10. We've had Robert Brooks on the show with JB when we were one big show. And that was kind of Robert Brooks' coming out party. He caught a pass in the corner of the end zone, kind of similar to some of Alshon Jeffrey's catches against Alabama. Todd Ellis threw it, and it was on TBS, and it was a day game. Remember Turner Broadcasting System?
I know, yeah. I was looking at this on. I was like, wow, look at that. They got 4 TBS games.
Skip Carey here after the Gamecocks and the Dogs. Be sure to tune in when the Braves play the blah, blah, blah. Because 88 was also the year I watched every single game of the 106 loss Atlanta Braves team. And I think that's the year they traded for Smoltz and brought up Steve Avery and Pete Smith late. Don't ask me to remember baseball too.
That was like the enough is enough year for the Braves, I believe. Yeah.
Carolina went to the Liberty Bowl in 88 and lost to Indiana.
Jeez.
Carolina's only scored on a block punt. It was a disaster. And South Carolina's basketball team that year got off to a pretty good undefeated start. They were actually ranked. And again, Atlanta, I love the Omni, right? So my dad, South Carolina was in what was called the Cotton States Classic, and it was LaSalle, Princeton, South Carolina, maybe Georgia. I don't know, one other team. And so Carolina played LaSalle, and they had a player called Lionel Train Simmons. And the Gamecocks were undefeated, and we went over there, and that game was like right after the Liberty Bowl. And so me and my dad are walking in from the Omni, and these Gamecock fans are walking in. And they're like, how many hours have we been driving from Memphis? And so Carolina lost that one too, 85-67. But that team at 88-89 ended up being the one NCAA tournament team that George Felton had at Carolina. So that was a good team. It's just a bad night. So I don't know, man. Hey, we knocked out 35 minutes or 25 minutes talking about history.
Oh, memory lane. That's right. A little history lesson here to kick off the
down
show.
memory lane. The 88 Gamecocks. Woody who? Hey, do you know who they played in the opener that year, Phil?
In 88? No.
Mac Brown in North Carolina. It's Mac Brown's first ever game at North Carolina. And his first ever game back was against the Gamecocks in Muschamp.
Yep.
So
they took an L that day too.
Yeah, Mac couldn't beat Carolina first time there. Of course, South Carolina stopped playing them and got in the SEC before they got really, really good. And then second time though, 2-1, 2-1, all 3 games in Charlotte. How about that? All right, we'll be back to discuss more about potential TV windows because we didn't even get to that. I got sidetracked.
No,
thank you, Billy Cotton, for opening up my brain on that. But hey, look, it's June. I said all spring. When we get to summer, we're going to talk a lot of different things in history and things like that, and definitely are going to do that. I also want to remind everybody, if you live in North Carolina, South Carolina, or the aforementioned state of Georgia, and you need insurance, there's no better person than Tony Pope. Tony Pope State Farm Insurance. They've been in business for a long, long time. They're my personal favorite insurance companies. If the state laws weren't as they are, I would have my car, my home, everything. Life, as it stands, I only have my life insurance with them now. But as soon as I move back to the great state of South Cac, switching back to Tony Pope, never had a problem. Great customer service, and they can bundle everything together for you and get you a great rate. Don't. I'm dealing with this now with a company that I won't mention. Cut rate, ridiculous, clown level insurance, right? Don't risk it, folks. You never know what's going to happen. Go to TonyPope.com. Support a Gamecock that supports the Gamecocks. Switch your insurance over to Tony Pope State Farm today. Proud sponsor of Chief Sports, Inside the Gamecocks, Tailgate Talks, Gives to NIL, whatever. He does it all. TonyPope.com. Tony Pope State Farm. We'll be back after this on the show.
I said, oh, Lord Jesus, it's a fire. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Disaster comes uninformed. During and after natural disasters or accidents, there can be a heavy loss to property. It can become extremely difficult to bounce back to what you knew before. Having your home or office destroyed or damaged by water, fire, smoke, or mold affects your personal and business lifestyle. Resto Pros of the Midlands is here to help. Open 24/7. Call them when you need them. 803-493-0170.
Set up a screen, and it goes to Brewer. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown Brewer, his second of the day. Pitches it to Brewer, turns the corner. Touchdown, number 3 of the afternoon.
Hey folks, it's Mike Morgan for Ryan Brewer Fence. That's right, you know the former Gamecock legend as a terrific college football player. Well, I know him as that too. I also know him as the guy that runs a great business, one of the best businesses in South Carolina. How do I know that? Well, for one, I'm actually a client of Ryan's. I had my home in Columbia done years ago, and his crew did an outstanding job, just as he does for everybody else. Whether you're in the market for a fence, railings, columns, or anything in between, their craftsmanship, their experience, and service second to none. Ryan Brewer Fence has over 15 years of experience with consultation and installation of residential and commercial fencing and railings. Rest assured your job will be done with an unparalleled level of expertise, and it's done on time, and they do it right the first time. Again, you're not going to do any better than Ryan Brewer Fence. The website is ryanbrewer.net. Set up an appointment today. Tell them Mike sent you.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Nana's Porch presents a Southern staple, delivered right to your doorstep. Nana's Porch locally crafted pimento cheese has been a hit for years at weddings, tailgates, and other events. Now you can order online and have it sent to your home. Visit nanasporch.com. That's nanasporch.com and click the pimento cheese tab to choose between their original pimento cheese and their jalapeno smoked pimento cheese set. nanasporch.com. Man, that's good.
Fans, Club Chief has arrived. Become a Big Chief Club member or a Big Chief Club Golden Gear member for exclusive access to our Nana's Porch chat box on Inside the Gamecocks The Show. Plus, you'll get access to our VIP tailgates, prize drawings, merch, and much more. A portion of your monthly membership goes to the Garnet Trust, supporting NIL at the University of South Carolina. Pull up your Chief Sports app and join on the home page. Thank you so much for being a member of Club Chief, and we look forward to meeting many of you very soon.
Welcome back, everybody. Inside the Gamecocks, the show rolls on here on a hump day. Wide open Wednesday, of course, in the Nana's Porch chat box. Hop on in and tell us how crazy and wild we really are and how impressed you are with JC's steel trap of a memory.
I am a wild and crazy guy.
Two wild and crazy guys.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. That kind of sums up what it is we do every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. So let's have some fun.
Courier's like, how do you remember all this? I don't know.
I
don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday.
Right.
Roger says Mountain View Prep has poached players from area schools like McGill from Broome. I actually think that helped McGill in the eyes of some recruiters. They don't need to shop in Woodruff. Nah, it's hard because I know some people associated. It's like IMG. I know some people personally associated with that, and I love and respect. I'm just not a fan of the recruiting teams. And
no,
I kind of feel about that, kind of like I feel about certain colleges. Well, I don't know. The colleges are a little more egregious that want to try to outsmart, illegally, like pass laws in their state that, well, we don't have to abide by the house settlement. Well, we're not going to play with you anymore.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, what purpose is? I mean, at some point you have to understand that this needs to, the whole one-upping of everything and manipulating the system has to stop in order for the system to stabilize. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic today.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This concludes our house settlement talk.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen, who knows what's going to happen there.
Yeah. Roger was at the Navy game in 1988, Morrison's last win. My dad got cold, went to the car. It was pretty chilly. That was in between the Florida State debacle, and then they went up to Clemson the following weekend. Listen to this. As much as we talk about coordinators now, Phil, back then, the Joe Morrison, beloved coach in Carolina history, and had some great years and did a lot for the program to kind of, like, as far as what it is now. I mean, 2001 started, in his era. Black Magic started in his era. 87, they had the Black Death defense, which probably wouldn't fly today because it's not PC, but they had a skull and crossbones on a big black flag. It said Black Death.
Black Death.
Black Death. Coach Joe was a hero. That was awesome because he'd lose a game, light up a Marlboro across the state. I wore black all the time. That's why Will Muschamp wore, but Will Muschamp never admitted it. But that's why he wore black all the time. He said it was slimming, but it was, in honor of Coach Morrison. Because when Will was, coming up teenage years, when he was like in middle school or whatever, that was South Carolina football. But Coach, this was a mistake he made. They had a bad ending in the Gator Bowl in 87, which at that time, Carolina couldn't buy a bowl win. Joe Morrison included. LSU beat him pretty good, 30-13. Todd Ellis threw a bunch of interceptions. And so their idea was to switch to a pro-style offense. Yeah, so this has been a thing. This pro-style offense thing it's whenever you've had like a dynamic offense at Carolina and then you switch to a pro-style, it's never worked.
It just doesn't.
Never once worked. And so he hired Al Groh as his OC because he knew him from the Giants and all that. But if you look at Al Groh's career, it's the only year he ever coached offense. And my dad used to say Al Groh has got to go because the offense got really stagnant during the year and all that. They had some good games, but the idea was to play more ball control, cut down because they were running the run and shoot before, like June Jones,
right,
style, Mouse Davis style stuff, and it was very futuristic and good. But Al Groh has got to go. So the offense kind of tanked. That was Al Groh's only year there. And that game against Navy, South Carolina won it 19-8. And I remember that score because the 8 was rare that you got 8.
Right?
Gods, they went for 2. A very boring game. South Carolina actually came out in the all black uniforms that day with the garnet helmets, and I thought that was kind of cool. But they won 19-8. Went up to Clemson, and old Coach Joe and Al Groh that's got to go pulled a fast one on the Tigers. I believe this is true because they said it on the broadcast. They kind of installed the run and shoot like 5-6 different plays that week. And they came out and got up on Clemson, I think 7-0 or tied them, and they were moving the ball and then turnovers. Clemson ended up winning that game 29-10, and a redemption song for Rodney Williams, the quarterback at the time at Clemson, who I believe owned a Budweiser distributorship, maybe he still does, next to Williams-Brice Stadium from Columbia. And then the Liberty Bowl happened, and the rest is history. But I remember that Navy game too, Roger. Roger also is going to make me sad about Spartanburg and miss home. Okay, I'm going to make JC even more homesick for South Carolina, the upstate. I went to Wade's yesterday and had their hamburger steak second to none. I hate you, Roger Snow.
We're going to lock the chat box now.
You can talk to me about
Ike's. Wednesday's done.
You can talk to me about Ike's and the Beacon and Sugar and Spice and Ricky and Sonny's, who are my cousins. Boots and Sonny's, who are my all the goodness that is the Spartanburg. You can even talk about the New Way. My favorite watering hole in Spartanburg. But don't talk to me about Wade's. There is no Wade's anywhere within 1,000 miles of here. They just don't do it like Wade's.
There's not an equivalent like meat and three kind of joint. Is there up in that area?
No, they don't do meat and threes. Cracker Barrel, that's it.
Yeah, that's not.
Now, okay, I will say this. Anybody that has the recipe for Wade's mac and cheese, my wife would pay, I'm not going to say pay money, but she'd be very happy if she got it. We can't replicate it. I can't replicate it because it's different, but nor the yeast rolls can I replicate. I love me some Wade's, though. I love me some Wade's. Krager asked, do you have to have a pass to get in next Saturday at CB90? No. It is free to get in, and you do not have a pass. If you want to RSVP on Eventbrite, Phil, can we find that link?
Yeah, let me
put it in the chat box. You get like a free raffle ticket, Krager, if you sign up. You pre-sign up. And all that. Steven said 2013 game was very hot. My wife got sick. Was that North Carolina, the opener? Oh, we parked far away from the stadium and forgot something. Wife walked back to get what we forgot. Thought she was going to kill me. Oh man. So Derek Jones, Roger Snow mentions he's from Woodruff. Remembering a basketball score from '88 is insane, Craig says. Well, that's pretty insane.
It happens.
Micah's got a lot of thoughts about college football. He chimes in with JC Morgan sometimes. I'm just going to put this in there. The more money the SEC pays, the more embarrassing the losses will be. Baseball regionals make our league look bad. I don't buy it. I mean, it's baseball. It happens. I think it's good for the sport. And keep in mind, Micah, the SEC is not the big highest paying conference. It's our friends located up next to the very fine Fogo de Chao in Des Plaines, Illinois, or Rosemont, Illinois. Yeah, their office is next the Big Ten. Their office is right next to Fogo de Chao.
Yeah, the Big Ten's last football contract put them ahead, and then of course
they are
the
ahead.
SEC is about to negotiate.
They are the evil ones, in my opinion. You know. Micah says, I know Mike likes to talk about talent, but I think the traditional evaluation of talent is much harder to discern because players get paid now. I agree, because with college kids, and I'm not going to get off on this topic then, I don't think, but you don't know how, you still have to develop. You still have to put in the work to be good at football in college. Once you get out of college and you're in the pros, I mean, you still have to work. It's your job, but there's not as much like you either maximize. I mean, in the pros, it's a more narrow, you're closer to your ceiling there, right? College, you're way the hell away from your ceiling. And, money sometimes. That's why I don't think Carson Beck will play. I don't know if he'll play pro football. Plenty of money. Probably not going to be drafted where. Why do it?
I don't see him as a pro prospect. I don't understand.
Well, Brad Crawford said he was number 1 overall pick.
And, and maybe, like I said yesterday, I mean, even a half-ass quarterback can go number 1.
You never know the NFL boys, right? But I agree with you, Michael. It is harder. And it's harder. And you see this with the media, not Mike necessarily, but you see this with the media. Like for a while there, it was pretty easy. You just kind of looked at recruiting rankings and said, well, they should. And you can guess at a 60 to 70% clip that a team has talent or not. Now, nobody's going back and looking and seeing, okay, yeah, well, they got a team full of 4 and 5 stars. Well, have you seen how many have left? Right. And do you know that the reason this program called the University of Georgia is great is because of a lot of mid-range 4 stars they developed into absolute monsters. And guys that weren't 4 and 5, the very few guys like Ladd McConkey that weren't rated that high. I mean, Carson Beck was Gunnar Stockton, Brock Vandegrift, Carson Beck. Okay, here's an example. Who was the lowest rated of those? Beck.
Was it Beck?
By a long way. Stockton and Vandegrift was a freaking 5-star.
Right, yeah. And I know Stockton was pretty 60, highly touted. Yeah.
Carson was like an end of the top 247 guy. And he was significantly better than both of them while he was there. And so I just said something nice about him. But nobody goes back and looks. Nobody goes back and looks. They just like see the recruiting ranking. It's like Micah, you're right. It takes a little more nuance to determine true talent. And it's really hard to do it heading in. Like all of us are sitting there looking at Virginia Tech going, they got a lot of new players. They lost a lot of great players. What are they going to do? You don't know. Those new players may be awesome. A Mississippi State, 65 new players. How do we know they're going to finish last? We don't. It's just Kentucky is scary in some ways because speaking of Vandegrift, they can't possibly be any worse at quarterback, Phil.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they'll outdo themselves.
By the time the season was over and they had nobody else, by the time the season was over, he was done.
Yeah.
Cooked. As the kids say, cooked.
He's cooked.
He's cooked. But so we'll see what happens. Clint says that black death flag the cheerleaders used to have needs to be brought back. I don't know. You're going to have some people. That's violent.
That's death. Violence. Death.
Jeff says the 1988 Clemson game, we had the ball on their side of the field a lot in the first half and we would turn it over. Yeah, because they came out in the run and shoot, and then as the run and shoot did at times, it wasn't the best offense in the red zone. Right. I remember watching that game. Clint reminds everybody Tommy Hodson was the quarterback for LSU in 87 when they beat Carolina in the Gator Bowl. Absolutely. Wendell Davis was the receiver, and Mike Archer was the coach of the Bayou Bengals. Roger apologizes for mentioning Wade's. Jeff goes, Wade's is so good. Clint's wife loves her some Wade's. Jeff says, I missed the tadpole in Greer. Don't you talk about the tadpole.
Me too,
my
Jeff.
Lord.
Yeah, me too. There's no quality fish camp in these parts anymore.
Everybody should be rioting because the tadpole isn't open anymore. That's something to get upset about.
It is.
Right. So
I don't even know if they do the flea market that was across the street anymore. I think maybe they
over in Greer.
Yeah, man. Tadpole's gone. I don't know if the flea market still opens or if I want to think they turned it into a junkyard, but I can't. Don't quote me on that because I don't get that far up very often.
I don't go that far. Last time I went up 29 that far, I was at your house.
Right.
And went to my brother's house in Welford, and it literally took me 53 minutes, whereas all my life that's taken me 25. I couldn't believe it. Saturday, summertime, nothing going on important, just people out in Greer shopping up 20 up. Awful. Cam says, what event is this? Sorry, I'm in the dark. It's the wing off, the third annual wing off, Saturday, the 21st.
Dina asked me yesterday, she's like, why are we not going to the wing competition? I was like, because we're going to a wedding.
Dude, keep working on her.
No.
Come on, keep working on her, man. She'll turn eventually. Tell her everybody's going to be there.
Send them a card with $100 in it and let's go down.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Just guys give them a nice gift. Sorry, we
only invited you to get the money.
Business calls. I can actually hear her saying that. Cam says, what event is the wing off? And Phil put in there, it's tickets, but it doesn't cost you anything. But if you're RSVP, you get a free raffle ticket. Cam, I would love to see you there, brother. Hadn't seen you in a while. Would love to see you there. Bobby calls me Rain Man. Definitely. 6 minutes to Wapner.
That's right.
Big Slam and Jazz says Beck could get some run in the UFL. And this is interesting too, because if you're Carson Beck and you've already made $10 million playing college football, would you just not play football anymore? Not do that to your body and take the collisions?
Right. I mean,
that's interesting though, because I agree. He's that level of guy in my mind. Now watch him win the Heisman and be the first overall pick. And Brad Crawford he'll be unbearable to his haters on Twitter. Brad will.
Carson Beck wins the Heisman. I'm going to eat my hat.
Yeah, me too. I don't have that.
Me either.
Billy mentions basketball, the Louisville fight in 88 when Carolina was up by 14, less than a minute. Everybody, Daryl Martin got ejected. Everybody got it. Yeah, I remember that. Carolina's up 72-58. Against Louisville was the big dog of the Metro Conference. They won the 86 national championship. They had Purvis Ellis and Denny Crum was the coach. It was a huge game whenever they came to the Coliseum. Carolina's up 14, and a fight breaks out. This is the most Gamecock day ever. One of the famous posters on the Big Spur, Freehawk, actually slugged a Louisville player. He was a student there at the time and hit him. It's on tape.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, it's on YouTube. I mean, the game was on the Metro Conference Network. It was awful. And so everybody starts shooting free throws, right? Carolina misses all of theirs. And there was like a minute 58 left. Not that much time at all. Louisville starts drilling shots. They tie it up. The game ends up going to double overtime. Louisville wins 98-88. That was a depressing game.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Hate losing overtime, especially when you're up 14 late.
Double late and a fight breaks out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, jeez, come on.
I guess it was 1989. So yeah, Carolina did make the NCAA tournament that year, but that win would have probably made them higher than a 12 seed. So Big Slam of Genesis, why did Vandegrift flame out so bad? Just a bad evaluation or what? Here's my theory. He never was that good to begin with.
Right, that's right. That was a missed eval coming out of high school.
Terrible missed eval. People fell in love with his size and speed and what he looked like in underwear and shorts. And this is one time too, I think, where level of competition in high school and then sitting all those years hurt him.
Yeah.
He originally committed to Oklahoma, but didn't want to go that far from home. Committed to Georgia, ended up Kentucky. But yeah, he was at Prince Avenue in Athens, which does not play tough competition, and that's one. Usually there's not that steep of a curve, or guys usually get it, like Jordan Birch and Boogie Huntley. Took a little while to adjust, but they got it. I mean, they belonged, and. Yeah, it ended up mattering. And by the time he was a full-time starter, couldn't do it, unfortunately. So there you go. Jeff says the flea market in Greer is gone as well.
Yeah, see.
Big Slam of Jeff says, just like with a lot of these five-star quarterbacks end up as journeymen throughout the lower levels. Jaden Rashada is at Sacramento State now. Don't laugh. My friend just got a job out there, dude. I got to be a Sac State fan.
Oh, that's all right. No, that's cool.
Brennan, well, I would laugh normally. I'd laugh at Jaden Rashada, but
that's what I'm laughing at. I'm not necessarily Sac State.
anybody can get that guy going, it's probably Brennan Marion. I love his offense.
Did Sac State just join the Pac-12, the new Pac-12?
Hey, they got to have an 8th team. They keep. They're talking about adding Memphis. I'm like, that's so. Don't do that.
No, like they already have what University of Arkansas Little Rock for wrestling is part of the conference itself, which is interesting. Yeah. But I thought they found the 8th one because now this is not official, obviously, because I'm catching it from Wikipedia, but it's the easiest one to put it all together. But as of July 1. They're looking to add to, of course, Washington State and Oregon State, Boise State, Fresno, Colorado State, Gonzaga, San Diego State, and Utah State.
That's 8.
3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's
Gonzaga. Gonzaga doesn't play football.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like
they got to have an 8 football. They have 8 football. Mm-hmm. I think Texas State's getting that in mind. But Texas State, as far as branding in Texas goes, way down the list.
Yeah.
But,
I'd go after Wyoming. I wonder why they didn't go after Wyoming.
Oh, they're like the ACC all over again. They're turning their nose up. Man, I would take Wyoming and New Mexico.
Right. Yeah.
It's the University of, and I may take Montana and Idaho too, because those, it's like buying Apple stock in the 1980s. Idaho and Montana are growing a lot as states. People are moving there. So is New Mexico, for that matter. And Wyoming's Wyoming. It's not gonna grow too much. But I mean,
UNLV. I mean,
they asked UNLV. UNLV said no because the Mountain West pulled an ACC, another ACC, and they're paying UNLV more than everybody.
Oh yeah, they're going to distribute it more.
The word in Vegas is that UNLV will eventually be in the Big 12, which I think, if you think about the corner, like where Vegas is, and then Utah's right there, and both Utah schools, and both Arizona schools.
The Arizona schools,
yeah. I think the Big 12 will be it. All right, so we're done with 1 hour. Lots of history there. Going to get into this TV window talk thing after that, as Head East plays in the background, the one hit wonders. A lot of interesting schedule, 7 home games. Maybe one of the home schedules Carolina's had that has the most big name games in a while.
Yeah,
I'd have to think on that. That's one thing I can't recall memory wise. One thing I can't recall memory wise is how awesome Nana's Porch Pimento Cheese is. Nana's Porch Pimento Cheese sponsors the Nana's Porch chat box. Obviously, they also do outstanding catering. They've catered some of our events. That pimento cheese is delicious, though. They can ship it to you. Go to nanasporch.com. Buy some of that pimento cheese. It's good. Good. I ate a whole thing in one sitting at Jamie Bradford's one day. He'll never forgive me for that. I hope you forgive me for taking a break now. We'll be back after this on the show.
Remarkable, 5-star, sensational. These are just some of the terms used to describe nationally renowned chef William Turner out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Originally from Georgetown, South Carolina, and a diehard Gamecocks fan, Chef Will made his way out west and has served parties from every state and many countries from across the globe. If you're in Arizona or have plans elsewhere, visit chefwilliamturner.com to inquire about private events and more. From MLB to NFL, the chef has served everyone. He's won all the awards, done all the press. There's a reason for that. Food from every culture, all of it first class. chefwilliamturner.com and Chef Will Turner on socials. You won't believe what you see. You really won't believe how it tastes.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
We got started in 1979. Because we're a manufacturer, we're able to control our costs. That's why we like to manufacture as much of the product as we can, because in our factory stores we can offer a competitive edge over other people around the country. When people come into one of our Palm Casuals, it's like they're buying their car at Detroit. They're going right to the factory and buying their car.
30-day money-back guarantee. That's a big deal with us. I mean, we give 30 days to do anything. I mean, return it, change it, get a different color, get your money back.
When you pull into a store and it says Palm Casual, you know you're at a factory store.
Clowns are people too. Clowns are people too. Now I own some tiny horns and got me those red shoes. I don't know much, but know one thing that's true. If you don't know anything, just know that clowns are people too.
Now back to the clowns on the Chief Sports Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Inside the Gamecocks The Show rolls on here on a wide open Wednesday. Second hour, final hour of the show here. Yeah, I saw it in the chat box. AP sent me a notification. But Brian Wilson, Beach Boys, has passed. Known for his innovative use of audio technology at the time, similar to the Beatles. Put out some really interesting music there through the years. And all ending up with, I think, an album that's kind of underrated for me, JC, just because of how innovative and different it was Brian Wilson's smile, it is not necessarily for everybody, but very creative, and it captured that spirit of, pet sounds and things of that nature from the Beach Boys. So, yeah, R.I.P. Brian Wilson.
Yeah, he was a musical genius, beloved by many. I used to be into the Beach Boys. I thought the Beach Boys were cool back in the day. R.I.P. We keep losing good ones, right? One of the things, Brian Wilson, I like that song, Brian Wilson, by the Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that's.
Oh, and of course, Ross Dellinger just tweeted that there's a Title IX suit that just got put.
I bet that lawyer from Oregon,
God,
did it. He's a douche. Excuse me. Can I say douche?
Yeah, sure.
I guess I can say he's a.
We talked about it for 5-6 minutes.
I mean,
day.
good Lord, man. Is it? Where do they? Before we get into the important, where did they file it? California.
Where did they file?
They didn't file it in Texas or South Carolina.
Oh, I can promise you, yeah, it's nowhere near SEC country. I do not have anything yet. It was just a tweet from Ross, so he's yet to do an article about it yet. A group of female athletes is all it says.
Oh my Lord! I hope none of them are from Carolina.
Lawyers for female athletes. I would hope that it's not. I wouldn't be surprised, but I would hope that it's not. I also think that the school is going to take care of its women's programs to the point that it won't be that big of an issue.
I mean, yeah. I said I wasn't going to get into it. I won't.
I know, but yeah.
I may tomorrow, though.
That's right.
I may tomorrow. But yeah, the Department of Education under Trump has already said that doesn't apply. I know the Biden one did, and I know it's crazy. So anyway,
yeah, that was some.
That's a great big. I'm not going to let it stress me out.
No.
By the way, I sent you an email, Phil.
I got it. Yep.
Maybe we can close out today with
doing her up now. Yeah.
With that instead of Into the World as we know it. Roger mentions how sad Tab's Flea Market. Yeah, man, we used to joke around about Tab's Flea Market at school.
Right.
In high school, Burns. You just go on down there to Tab's Flea Market. And if somebody would make fun of somebody's clothes. Not me. I never made fun of anybody's clothes. I've never been the best dresser, but be like, you get your clothes at Tab's Flea Market. Anyway, Cam's not going to make the wing eating contest because he has a poker game set up for that weekend. Completely legal. He's not doing any gambling for entertainment purposes only. Kreger asked a question on the show: would a player ever make enough in college to not want to go pro and risk injury? Yeah, I think Carson Beck. Now, some players love to play. I mean, it all comes down to that question coaches ask a lot these days: do they love football? Because there's a difference between being good at football and loving football. And so there you go. Kreger says if you invest correctly, yeah, some guys will be able to do it. And yeah, Bruin informed us Brian Wilson died. Roger said he worked with Everett Sullivan's cousin in Simpsonville at the time. Good guy. Rooted for Notre Dame because of Tony Rice, but could not reciprocate and root for Louisville. Yeah, Carolina and Louisville used to have some battles back then. Louisville, like I said, they were on a different level than the Gamecocks at that point in time in the old Metro Conference. Bobby chimes in about the wing eating contest. Billy says working to miss Laurel's birthday party for the wing eating show. So if he can miss a birthday party for Laurel.
That's right. Listen, Bobby, we're just going to go rogue, and I'll see you at CB18.
Let's make a daggum packed. Show up in sunglasses and trench coats. Hey,
yeah, we're all in this together.
Oh, that'll be fun. So I like the window thing. I don't know that it's something that I think helps fans, Phil.
Yeah,
primarily, and it's one of the few things all the TV stuff is, done that's fan friendly, if I may add. Of course, there's always controversy. They get enough night games or whatever, but I look at it, and what it does, it helps fans plan, because you do have fans that have travel windows and things like that. They can book flights, whatever, because you kind of know within a certain time frame what time the game's kicking off. So I like it. I think it's fan friendly. What I don't like about it is that if I were a TV exec, because it's kind of limiting as far as like, well, what if this team's really, really good and we've already got them penciled into the noon window or whatever, and that game should be on prime time. That said,
yeah,
I think they're willing to do that with the SEC, because let's say you do have a game that's surprisingly huge that's penciled in for noon.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to go up against big noon kickoff, and you're going to siphon away some of the Fox audience anyway.
Yeah, it's
so,
like you could kind of just count on that. It was like, well, it's at noon, but at least it's on ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for the SEC, it is not only more money, but a blockbuster deal, because, CBS, and look, CBS wasn't paying what ESPN was paying to televise to get the inventory. CBS would do a game of the week, and then they'd have like 2 double headers during the year. Right. And then everything else was on SEC Network or ESPN. Disney will throw it on ABC in a heartbeat. So you have network television triple headers a lot of weekends for the SEC. And that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
I like how it's not just a special occasion to be on ABC. It's like, nah, we're shifting gears and we want to go all day football. Like, might as well.
Yeah. I mean, I dig that. I think, I think it's good. Now, do I miss the production of these CBS games? Yes.
Well, yeah.
There's not better production out there than CBS. I mean, it's they do like their camera shots, the sound, the broadcasters are always I mean, it is the best broadcast out there. And it hurt my heart, Phil, to hear da 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 da, and Brad Nessler comes on, who we've had on JC and Morgan before. It's like, welcome to the big house, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Southern Cal, Michigan. And I'm like,
yeah.
And to hear Gary Danielson talking about, Michigan, and I'm like, this hurts my heart, dude. I just miss it. I don't know. But I do think ABC's fine. And it's good for Carolina. Carolina hadn't had a home night game on network television ever until last year.
Yeah, exactly.
First year of the deal. So I think that's pretty network. By network, I mean ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox.
Yeah.
In prime time at night, the whole country got to see it. So that's good. The few people that don't have cable got to see it. Right. So there we go. Krager says he just dropped douche nozzle in the chat box. Douche nozzle. That's awesome. The Queen of the Cocks from the Show Me State. What's the chances the LSU game being a night game? I'm sure the Bama game will be, or at least one of the two. I don't know yet. LSU loves to play home night games. They got a big night game at home against Florida, right?
Florida, yeah.
Close to the Gamecock game. If I'm the Gamecocks, I'm kind of, just from a strategic standpoint, I'm maybe hoping for an 11 a.m. Central kickoff, Phil.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for is, the Southern equivalent.
Crowd get going. Yeah.
What's the Cajun equivalent of kegs and eggs?
Onion.
That's right.
Gumbo, breakfast gumbo.
Bourbon and beignets. That's what we're going for.
Bourbon and beignets. That's what we do down there. I'll have some average jambalaya. I'll heat in the microwave and shotgun 16 beers. That'll be fun.
Game day ready.
But that Bama game at night, I think is going to be, that would be ideal.
And that one, that's the one I kind of have circled, right, for Carolina to be a night game. If I had to put probabilities on them, I say that's probably the highest probability for the home games, at least.
Yeah. All right. Micah says, I agree. I think SEC losing in baseball is good for the sport. I'm saying the SEC pays more in baseball than other leagues. I'm concerned about our portal approach at Carolina. All right, I'm going to get to that in a second because I do have some not information, but thoughts on that about baseball. because the rest of the narrative about the SEC not being good, all of a sudden, I think that's bogus. They'll come back next year, just like the SEC being here to stay in basketball. I think it's still going to be quite good. But
even with 2, there's still more SEC teams in Omaha than there are any other conference represented. I mean,
too bad they have to play each other, right?
I'm sure.
Also, according to FanDuel, they're the 2 favorites. Arkansas 1, LSU 2. Coastal is 3rd.
I saw that
plus 600. So, I think that when I kind of look at it, you look at back to the windows real quick. Mm-hmm. The more home night games. Beamer has not lost a home night game since 2021, and I was at that game, and they should have won it. 16-10 to Kentucky, and that was a game where, maybe if you had a little bit better offensive coordinator, you just think Kentucky tried to give Carolina that game. Of course, the rushing yards that night were like 224 to 40 in favor of Kentucky. But anywho, but that's the primetime kickoff at Williams-Brice. Yeah, they've lost some mid-afternoons. They've lost some noons at Williams-Brice. At nighttime kickoff, they have not lost since 2021, Phil.
That's wild.
That is wild. How about that? And have had a lot of huge wins at night.
Right. I mean, even the last night game that was played there is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, no doubt. So big win there and all that. Now Clemson's gotten them twice at night at Williams-Brice.
Right. Yeah, right.
So Clemson got them twice, but SEC night home games, they've done pretty well. So looking at it, Kentucky, that's after they go to Mizzou into September. I'll trade a noon or 3:30 kickoff, preferably 3:30 or 4, for the Wildcats to have some night games in October. I would hope. I hope Oklahoma's at night, because in some ways that's a bit of a, I don't want to say trap game, but it's between LSU and Alabama.
Right,
dude. And that's it's still Oklahoma. I mean, I'm not buying this massive improvement. Like all of a sudden they're going to win 10 games.
No, you got to see that first.
I think they'll be a better team with a better record and more wins, and they will upset somebody. And hey, maybe it won't be an upset by the time they play the Gamecocks. Who knows? But I'm not. Last year everybody loved Oklahoma. And the only intellectual reason to pick them to finish higher than where they finished was that they're Oklahoma. That was it. End of the day, that was it.
They're Oklahoma.
Nobody called anybody out for running Dylan Gabriel off. Oh, they think Jackson Arnold's better.
Yeah, I know.
Now Jackson Arnold's at Auburn, and the next savior has come to town. So, but that'd be awesome to have that at night. Alabama, you mentioned Coastal. That game, that slot in the schedule, if it's not a conference game, the week before Clemson, that's normally like a 4.
That's what I'm thinking, like mid-afternoon. That's a 3:30, 4 o'clock kick. Yeah.
And here's what's interesting this year. When the ACC's involved, we usually all have to wait until, it comes down from Mount Olympus and smoke rises from the conclave and it takes just as long for them to decide about TV times as it took them to, cheat Virginia Tech out of the Miami win last year.
Yeah. That's right. We're not going to know the kick time for the Clemson game until after your turkey's defrosted in the refrigerator.
Well, but Phil, that's when it's an ACC game.
Right. Oh,
it is an
this one's
SEC
at home.
game
That's
this
true.
year.
Yeah.
So we will have a window for Clemson, South Carolina. Here, you'll know it. In 1 hour, you will know what window, or a couple of windows, potentially, the Palmetto Bowl is in this year. So there's no waiting around with nerves 6 days before kickoff going, is it night or home? Is fine, but that kind of sucks for me because I like talking about it and speculating. So all those games, South Carolina get a window for at home, and then on the road at Missouri, at LSU, at A&M, and at Ole Miss. Those are, I don't know, allegedly big games. I mean, I'm curious to see how different it is, Phil, this year with South Carolina having expectations versus last.
Right. It will be a little different, I would think. The one I'm more now, if we're looking at road games that could potentially be night games, obviously LSU is one that stands out because nobody wants to do that at night. But Ole Miss at Oxford is another one that I feel like when you look at that week, now I have not looked at what our, friends in the ACC are doing that week. But that one, just with some of the matchups that you have otherwise, kind of scares me for the potential of it being a big, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock ABC kick, it's all right. At least it's the Grove. Maybe they'll just get tired.
Talking about it, yeah, they'll party themselves
That's
out.
right. Yeah.
I mean, it looked like a mass casualty, I don't want to bring up a trend.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but no, you're right. Yeah,
I don't want to talk about Jonestown or anything, but I did that one time on radio in Columbia 20 years ago about Tommy Bowden's Clemson revival. The Brother Bowden Traveling Salvation Show.
Oh, right. Brother Bowden Traveling Salvation Show.
And I said, it's Jonestown. And they did not take too kind. And I felt bad. But okay, so Hail Bop Comet people, is that off limits?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I'm trying to paint a picture of a mass people on the ground wearing seersuckers. So maybe like a passed out bunch of people at a party, but like a seersucker rug through the Grove. With all the suspenders, and those dudes, all the floppy moppy hair, bro. Yeah, so we don't have to go death. They're just taking a nap.
That's right. Yeah.
Check this though, Phil. I was talking on coffee today about the schedule and about the game at Ole Miss. I feel like South Carolina's due against not only Ole Miss but against Lane Kiffin. They've never beaten him. It's never been close.
No,
particularly. But all right, so Carolina's played. They played in Oxford. Carolina and Ole Miss used to play occasionally before the SEC. But in the SEC era, South Carolina has played Ole Miss at Ole Miss in '98. It was a shootout, 33-28. Brad Scott, kind of like Joe Morrison did, went back to the fast break offense because they just had a garbage system before that. I think Brad Scott's wife, Daryl, actually broke her leg or something in the stands or broke a bone. She had a fall. She had a spill. So that was the first time. The 2003 game was when Strickland played.
Yeah.
And it was that daggum phantom safety call. Eli Manning was the Ole Miss quarterback. Ole Miss was up 43-14. Gamecocks made a furious rally under Holtz, cut it to 43-40. But that safety was like before the LSU game this past year, like between the push off at Clemson and the LSU game, that was the worst call I've ever seen. And the Outback Bowl game, before the Clowney hit, had Clowney not made that hit, that would have been the absolute worst call I've ever seen. Because like that when the sticks clearly said they were short.
Right.
There's visual evidence there. And you couldn't challenge it or anything. The replay clearly showed Pinkins was 3 yards outside of the end zone, and they called a safety. And Carolina lost 43-40, but that was a wild shootout game. In 2008, myself, John Manning V. Horn, the late great one, and Wild Bill Gunner got on an Air Tran flight. flew to Memphis. John Manning V. Horn got on one of the best craps rolls at the Grand Casino I've ever been a part of. There were 3 deep going, Gamecocks.
Nice.
Forgot to pack underwear that game.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, as a dudes, it doesn't matter. Female, maybe it's a problem. But so I had to have my buddy John, he was coming and picking us up and driving us over to Oxford, bring me some like drawers, like from Walmart to put on. We go over there. First time at Ole Miss, Jason Barnes has a crazy good day patching the ball. Chris Smelly throws it. They beat Houston Nutt and Ole Miss in Oxford. It was a classic Spurrier game because that Ole Miss team in 08 was much better than that Carolina team. But the Gamecocks win. I remember they had Dexter McCluster, and I think it was Emmanuel Cook hit him and made him fumble. But that was a crazy back and forth, 31-24. So fast forward, they don't play over there again until 10 years later. That was the 48-44 crazy glue sniffing nut job game that it was. Debo returns the kickoff, however many yards. Not only does Tyson Williams break his arm in the middle of his best game ever. I mean, he had caught some. Jake Bentley's going crazy. Carolina's up 17-3 and 20-something early. And then I'm living in Atlanta at the time. We're at the dive bar at the watch party, and I look up, and all of a sudden it's 44-34, Ole Miss late. And I'm like, how did we get here to this point?
How did we get here?
All of a sudden, Mon Denson breaks through the line. Goes about 70 yards, sets up a touchdown. And Carolina ends up pulling it out 48-44. I think about 6 guys got hurt on defense that day for the whole year.
Yeah. Right.
It was a by any means necessary game. But Carolina won that crazy one out there. And then the last time they went to Ole Miss was 2020 during the pandemic. That was the Lane Kiffin famous clipboard game. And Will Muschamp's final game as head coach at Carolina. Carolina was up 42-38 late, and then Ole Miss kind of poured it, So it was crazy. Another crazy thing about the Muschamp era. The first game of the Muschamp era was 13-10. The last was 59-42. I would have never thought that. No. I would have had 13-10 on my bingo card, 59-42. Unlikely. So it's been wild times when Carolina's gone to Oxford, and I expect that this year as well.
Yeah. I'm hoping for it. Maybe Carolina will come out on top of a shootout this year with Ole Miss and Ole Lane Kiffin. Shootout. What I'd love to see would be a 13-10 like slogger knocker. Right? Yeah, just shut it down. Late kick by Mason Love. I know that dude Lance's heart good.
Latte Lance will have a few more lattes. That's right. If Mason Love makes the winning kick. The beautiful creative work of the Queen of the Cocks.
Love it, man.
I like
bluesy feel. I do too, man.
So I don't know. Yeah, Ole Miss game, I can see it being at night. Oxford, and I ranked them in order today. I was like, here are the toughest ones. I went LSU, A&M, Missouri, and Ole Miss. And just because, no offense to the Ole Miss crowd, it's a great place to watch a game, but it's not. I mean, it's just hitting the loudest play. I mean, it's not the toughest place to go get a W.
Yeah. And I feel like Carolina gets a buffer against a night game at College Station with what else is on the docket across the SEC, because you got Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia.
Oh God,
Florida, Ole Miss.
Carolina could end up being like on ESPNU.
Yeah, right at noon.
Hey, I may go to that game at College Station this year because that, barring a deep playoff run for by the Lockport Porters, I'll be free and clear. So maybe fly on down Houston, get some Texas barbecue, take the stepson to Aggie Land.
That's right. Grab you some brisket.
Be like, hey, don't you want to be a yell leader? No, bruh.
No.
With my luck, he'll like it.
Oh God,
he's kind of bougie, Nah, I doubt it. Anyway, what else is bougie, Phil? I think it's Gamecock Traditions.
That's right. Is it?
GamecockTraditions.com. You can get some bougie stuff. They have the Johnny O, the Peter Millar, all that. Also, a collection of Gamecock items and apparel. Go to GamecockTraditions.com. Please follow them on social media too. They're having a Father's Day sale that is outstanding and awesome. The brick and mortar stores, of course, are in the village of Sand Hills in Northeast Columbia. Also out in Lexington, GamecockTraditions.com, a fantastic sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks Show and the Morning Show and all of that good stuff. We'll be back with the final half hour. Nobody's going to listen to us because of the anticipation of the window announcement. Oh, my goodness. The show rolls on after this.
The season rolls on at Love Chevrolet, where the inventory is overflowing and the deals are in full bloom. Rev up your spring with Love's exclusive specials on Suburbans, Tahoes, Silverados, the entire lineup of award-winning Chevys on the lot now and ready to go. Spring-tacular savings at Love Chevrolet. We're talking the best selection of new Chevys, the lowest price, guaranteed. In fact, they'll beat any competitor's price or give you $1,000. The other dealers upsell, overcharge, and will say most anything to get the sale. At Love Chevrolet, satisfied customers do all the talking, and they say things like helpful, honest, and fun. Your trusted hometown Chevy dealer since 1961, Love Chevrolet. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
That's the power of love. Love Chevy.
Hey Gamecock Nation, my name is Kyle, longtime listener of the show and avid golfer. I wanted to take my game to the next level, but let's face it, golf is a hard game to learn on your own. I heard the ad from McKellar Enterprises and reached out to the owner and former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor. In just 2 months of working with Meredith, I shot my lowest round ever, and I've never felt more confident in my golf game. So if you're looking to take your game to the next level, go to McKellarEnterprises.org and book your lessons today with former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor. Go Gamecocks.
The Aventon Adventure 2 takes the same basic design as the original Aventon Adventure, making it an adventure bike designed to take you places that typical roads just don't reach, allowing you to ride whatever terrain you want based on your whims of the day. Look at what you're getting. Hydraulic disc brakes, torque sensor for responsive pedal assist, great LED lighting, suspension, a beautifully welded frame with excellent build quality, included rear rack, included fenders. The list just keeps going on.
Visit electricbikescharleston.com for more.
And now, the show goes on.
Welcome back, everybody, inside the Gamecocks The Show. Final segment of the show here on a Wednesday. Everybody eagerly anticipating the release of the scheduling windows from the SEC today. Should drop right at about the time, 2 o'clock. JC, you mentioned you had a little baseball thoughts. I kind of have.
I did.
About
the pay.
We'll see.
Somebody mentioned this, and this may or not be, because the SEC baseball programs have been paying well for a while. Tennessee paid as well as anybody, won the national championship last year, played the other team that pays as well as anybody, A&M. Of course, the money and then installing a coach at A&M probably hurt them. And notice they didn't fire him either, which A&M's made some curious moves money-wise lately. I think maybe they're feeling that Jimbo buyout a little bit, which sounds absolutely nuts to say.
Yeah. But could be taking a bite, man. I mean, some of these people are just like, I already gave to get rid of Jimbo, man. I'm tapped out.
Gig them. I bought the Yell Leaders new those new satin uniforms that they've got, and put the sequin. My wife sewed the sequins on them herself. Dude, they're in the college football game, the Yell Leaders.
I saw that.
Some A&M fan was even like, man, that's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, God, we got some breaking news.
Oh.
Tadpole burnt down and the flea market closed now.
I didn't know the
tadpole burnt down.
I didn't realize that. I knew it had closed, but I didn't realize there was a fire.
That's insane. Bruin-esque, as only Bruin is capable of doing. the bold Brewing Nation barbecue.
That's
Do we get
right.
an extra 15 to 20 minutes today to talk about it since we got short and 20 yesterday? How about no? I would normally do that, but guess what? If I know the SEC network, it ain't going to be like they announce everything and then talk about it. They're going to dribble it out.
It'll
I don't
either
want
be
to
week
sit
by
here.
week.
I'm not even. I'm
school.
gonna get the info on X too. I'm not even going to sit there and listen to it.
Oh, is it a
I have
show? I'm
no
sure it is.
interest in hearing anybody break down what window is better. We know. Okay, this is supposed to be for fans. So yeah, I'm not gonna. And look, honestly, I'm not. I love our audience, and I would, but I got to get ready for this yard sale, folks.
Right.
I mean, I'm on a clock when we get off. I got to get the podcast version up because we've been more consistent with that. Those that listen on podcast, thank you for coming back and giving us another chance. There were technical reasons because I'm too stupid to figure out the file that I need to use for the pods.
It's okay.
And I was using an MP3 instead of an MP4, which is a more condensed. Yeah. Anyway. But anyway, so I got to get that up. The clock's ticking. The clock's ticking. The clock's ticking. You got to go get the wife at 4, my time. Right. Clock's ticking. Clock's ticking. Clock's ticking. Well, I got a laundry list of stuff to do for the garage sale because that bad boy. By the way, no show on Friday, just as a reminder, because I have to run the whole show. Right. So no show Friday. Right. You won't see us here. It's summer, folks. But I gotta be the guy because the wife's got to work. So it's up to me and the boys, and well, let's just say I probably wouldn't. If I were
Which
actually
means it's mostly
hiring, if I were actually hiring 2 people, I don't know if they'd be at the top of my list to do this.
I know that
involves manual labor and stuff. So
yeah, I've told everybody in my house today to basically piss off for a while because I have work to do and they're eating up my time. It's like, listen, I'm not on summer vacation. I guess
holiday run.
Right. Yeah. It's like, we celebrated all for 3 months. And
Bry guy, or Billy says, Billy's got full of accusations today. Must have been a Clemson fan that burned down the tadpole. Let's start that rumor.
That's right.
It was a Clemson fan that burnt the tadpole down in Greer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeff, long story. My family and I went to the A&M yell practice at midnight when they played Clemson at Hillcrest High in Simpsonville. They made dumb jokes about Clemson, and in the middle of all the A&M fans were 2 fat Clemson fans wearing all orange. They looked like they made the biggest mistake of their life. Yeah, Clemson fans are bold. They'll just show up.
Yeah. Well,
like I said, I saw a Clemson fan in full gear at the Final Four in basketball in Phoenix, I was like, man, your hate for South Carolina is strong, bro.
That's right.
Because that was an expensive trip. So, excuse me. I'm allergic to excellence.
That's right.
Or
orange, either one.
My bad. I couldn't hit Paul. I couldn't hit mute at the time. Got to be the same ones that burnt down the UFO Welcome Center.
Yeah. Oh, in Orangeburg or right outside of it. Is that the one? Did that burn down too? Big Slammer? Come on, man.
They're just everybody's just taking away things from my childhood, dude. Next is south of the border. It'll all burn in glory one day.
The good thing about south of the border is it already looks post-apocalyptic. So it's not going to hurt business there.
I follow them on Instagram. It's like best steakhouse on 95. I'm like, there's a steakhouse there?
I never knew.
Who would know? So Bruin's like, it took her, Jeff.
Yeah, Bowman. That's right, man. Bowman. Yeah.
Bowman. So anyway, I'm sorry I can't stay on today. I would, I love doing it, but I can't. So I apologize for that. Anyway, baseball. I don't know, to Micah's point, that the money didn't have anything to do with it. Because, and some of the baseball folks made this point. They're like, you can have all the NIL money you want, but you're going to run into this team I think it was when Ole Miss got beat by Murray State. eventually you're going to run into a team where they have to cut the grass and roll the tarp out and do all that. And those boys are going to be ready to beat your butt. I think, as we saw during the Tanner era, toughness in baseball is something that can get you wins. Grittiness, toughness. You still have to be talented. You still have to be able to play. You can be as tough as you want. And if you suck, you suck. But desire is a big thing in that game. And, because you have baseball, you have all these moments decide games. And they're more, whereas in basketball and football, moments happen in a blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. The moments in baseball can be extended. I mean, you can have an at-bat that lasts 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're like said there. So can you meet the moment? And tough teams can do that. And tough teams feed off of momentum and things. And then just the nature of baseball, some teams get hot at the right time. And that happens in that sport. But I think there's something to be said for that. The good news, if you're worried about, baseball and NIL ruining the sport or whatever, or causing like mid-major invitational in College World Series, the money's going down, NIL wise. Micah did mention pulmonary and what they're doing in the portal and all that with the money. And yeah, I agree. I've said from the start. I don't necessarily say, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this is wrong of them to go buy a team. I think that's the only option they really had. You're not, he's trying to turn it pretty fast.
Yeah.
And barring like a coaching change or, barring him suddenly deciding he wants to be here 15 years or something, which I don't think is happening. You need to turn it fast, and you have the opportunity to do it. And there was a window here with the House settlement being, postponed, the final agreement, which helped Carolina because they're able to front load for baseball. And so it's a 1-year thing. Everybody else is going well below $1 million in the SEC for baseball. But they're also getting full scholarships. 25 of them. Of course, I don't know what this Title IX lawsuit's going to be. And so I think we'll see it work out. And I don't know, I think if you're like Tennessee and in that position where you won a national title and you got Tony Vitello and things are sky high for Tennessee baseball, that's probably something you don't want to happen. And that's probably why Vitello called the House settlement the dumbest thing he's ever been a part of. Of course he's going to say that because he's part of a system now that, he's taking full advantage of.
Yeah, exactly.
And so people are going to say that. But
and he also know where the hearts and minds of, the fans at Knoxville lie. And it's in Neyland Stadium, not on the baseball field.
Oh, yeah. No soup for you, Tony.
Right, yeah.
But so I don't know. I think there's something to be said about college baseball teams in general. The sport in general, too much talking and too many theatrics this year. I don't know if that's because of travel baseball or what, but I do think a lot of teams probably learned some lessons this postseason, not just from the SEC, but the ACC as well. I don't know about the upstate, but there's a lot of karma that comes when you put your fans right next to the bullpen like that intentionally.
Yeah.
Sometimes the baseball gods, which are a thing, they frown upon that.
Because they moved the bullpens.
Yeah,
this season is my understanding. From what I think Coach Lake and Derek were talking about that.
I just think that goes beyond strategic. And the NCAA rep that was there for that regional should be fired.
Right.
And I'm not just saying it because it's Clemson. I would say it if this were anybody, even South Carolina. I'd say I wasn't a fan of it. But that's a lot. There's a lot of safety issues there. These are college kids. Not that you can't heckle college kids, because you certainly can, especially in baseball. But that close, and you're also dealing, Phil, with like young people. I mean, they're not pros, right?
Right.
They're not adults. One of them, you say something to them, you get some genius like the guy that tweets all the time and keeps the stupid spreadsheet of things South Carolina media says. And he lives in his mom's basement.
Yeah. What if he's there?
Well, I mean, that's the type of guy that would go do kind of what like the Georgia's outfield student section was notorious about looking up things about players' girlfriends. And
stuff. Doxing. Yeah. Right.
Doxing
As
players.
they call it now. Yeah.
What's to keep that psychopath from like not coming over there? And because, he's obviously so committed to his Clemson narrative that he, if he's willing to do that to like media people and all and act like he does, he's borderline psychotic.
Yeah.
Well, and so you have that freaking loose cannon going over there, getting 6 inches from a player, a foot from a player, rolling something personal. That player, I don't know that they can always contain themselves. No. And so then you have something where a player hauls off and knocks a guy's teeth down his throat. And then you're really going to have problems. Clemson has always made better decisions than that, in my opinion. And I look, the marching band being at the baseball game and the Cajun Cafe and all the circus that goes on at their I'm fine with all of that. I applaud that. It's what they do. But that crossed the line, and it would cross the line anywhere, in my opinion.
Right.
And I never criticized them at all, because what good is that going to do? None. If I say anything, it's usually complimentary. But that, to me, that first of all, is very un-Clemson to do that. Now, it's not normally their MO with things. They're not, Carolina fans obviously hate their guts because they're Clemson fans. Right. And there's a rivalry there, but you even ask, like Jeff mentioned, A&M doing yell practice. An A&M buddy of mine way back in 2005 went to Clemson for the opener, and Clemson actually won that game by 1 point. Tommy Bowden was coaching there. I think it was 2005. And he came back. He was working with me in Nashville at the time at Rivals. And they came, I was like, well, how was it? He's like, man, they're the nicest people in the world. And just about anybody will tell you that. I mean, they're actually, most of them are South Carolinians. They're nice people,
Right, exactly.
They're just not nice to Gamecock fans. And so I don't know that just seems that's very un-Clemson-y to me as far as that goes.
Well, I put a lot of the blame on the NCAA because you knew you were going into an uncompliant stadium. Your stadium should be in full compliance if you're going to be considered for hosting in the postseason. I don't care how good you were, what your rank is. If your stadium does not comply with the way the NCAA lays things out for stadiums and giving that buffer zone from, drunk college fans, then you should not be allowed to host. You should have to host at, the next, suitable venue. So that, would have been funny to see Clemson hosting a regional and Founders. That really would have got everybody up in arms.
How crazy was it that the biggest crap talking team in the SEC that everybody hates, Kentucky, beat them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Oh man, that's like, oh God, you want to talk about tough to swallow? Wow, Mangio.
Right, yeah. The most Bush League team in the SEC,
they're the worst.
right?
Nobody hates their guts, dude, and it's like they beat them. Oh man,
doesn't matter what you got the bullpen or how close they are. We're just gonna lean into everything anyway, and you're gonna keep putting us on base.
Maybe they're such douche nozzles, as Craig said earlier, that it's like repellent. Like none of that matters to them because they're just jerks anyway.
Yeah, right.
Billy in the Dennis Porch chat box asked, should Carolina go after Coastal's baseball coach? He's only been there 1 year, and wasn't he a promoted from within guy?
I don't remember.
And Carolina doesn't have an opening, Billy. I mean,
that's the other thing is that Carolina's not looking for a baseball coach.
Yeah, the window is closed. Speaking of windows, the window is closed on that. So you just got to hope that things go well.
Rolling on with 0 staff changes to see how year 2 goes.
Yep.
It's a move.
Well,
it's a gamble.
One thing I will say, I did say this. I thought that if you're going to keep, if you're not going to cut the head off the snake or the 2 heads off the snake, if you will, to use an analogy, or the part of the snake, then you just need to keep everybody because
Yeah.
The other two didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, and they can recruit and are well liked and stuff like that. So, Kevin Schnall, he's been there at Coastal for a while, but I mean, you don't know. I mean, who knows? They may win the national championship again this year,
which is what none of us should be rooting for. I mean, I understand the whole, it's a South Carolina team, pull for South Carolina, but if you are the flagship university, you do not want to see one of your former satellites win 2 national titles in a span of 10 years.
They'd still have 2 more than Clemson.
That's true. But
yeah, I don't know, man.
But I think the Coastal fan base is being undersold on their ability to compete in the Rocco's Jello shot challenge, because I mean, if any fan base has got Jello shots wrote all over it, it's the one down there in Conway, South Carolina.
Coastal, baby. Yeah. You're going to go to the secrets. No, but it's, that Jello shot challenge. I told you yesterday, I almost chimed in with Wisconsin. They don't.
Right. Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. LSU, I will have a hard time believing LSU would not. Win that.
Well, you'll have, somebody from LSU just give, $10,000 and be like, okay, here's, $2,000 just to get the board up.
They take over Omaha though. I mean, they really do. I mean, when they go, heck, they have some of their fans go to Omaha every year, even when they're not there.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing, is that they're represented in Omaha basically every year just because they like baseball. What do you mean we're not in it this year?
What do you mean?
Huh?
So, oh man, Arkansas with John Daly. That's actually a good point.
It is. Yeah. You got some real contenders this year for the shot challenge. Real contenders.
Daly was talking about how much beer he drinks, Miller Lite, one day. He said he goes through like 40 something. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
They asked him one time how to cure hangovers. Like, drink the same dang thing you drank the night before. It's good advice.
I mean, hair of the dog is an effective way to treat a hangover.
I got a bad habit of that for a while, like several years back. But I don't like being hungover. It's not fun for me.
No.
I'd rather actually be sick than hungover.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, because the emotional part of it, like the freaking regret, it's not to hit you that hard when you got the flu or the cold, right?
Yeah, right.
And so it's like, God, and I hated it. So if I didn't have anything to do the next day, I'd just be, let's just keep it going.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just keep it going.
Right. Let's just go.
I'm too old for that now. Rogers pulling for Coastal and Murray State. Frew said chance up. Nana Sports chat box. The Queen mentions if John Daly shows. And Matt says John Daly has his own brand of seltzer, right? I think so.
Wow.
All right, we can hit the music now.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's
get on out of here.
Roll it away.
We certainly enjoyed chatting with all of you today, and we hope that you enjoy the window announcement coming up. I'm like Windows 25. That'll be the name of the podcast.
Windows 25.
Windows 25. And there we go. This is that Bare Naked Ladies song. Brian Wilson. R.I.P. to one of music's greats. Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Just let it play for a little bit. For the Mad Dog, J.C. Sherbert. Be back in the morning. Do it all over again. We're gonna have are we getting a smorgasbord tomorrow? Or
yeah. I didn't say in lieu of.
It's a little pre-smorgasbord.
Yeah, we did. We got a little appetizer action on the smorgasbord.
And then tell Matt Anderson he's not coming on Friday unless you guys just want to do a show.
I was gonna see.
I got a text.
JB could go an hour over, and then me, Matt, and JB do an hour. We'll see. Don't hold me to it, because it's awfully tempting to just knock off at noon on Friday from my end.
Absolutely. For Mad Dog JC, We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening to the show, everybody. Have a happy hump day.